shit. What's up?
Found it in this little thrift store. I thought it was cool now.
It was in the
Damn, we made it to a
bin,
thrift store already.
Yeah. Yeah, I filmed like 4 videos with it on, so you get prime real estate in the next couple of videos.
Brother. Man, that's awesome. Perfect timing right after your Halloween reaction, brother. Jesus Christmas.
Yeah, that was some View City, dude. Congrats
on
you.
Yeah. People like that Michael Myers guy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Not as much as CeePee and I do, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Big trailer drop this week.
Did it really?
I heard something.
Yeah, Shane Black is. I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too, dude. I was just watching the NBA finals, and sure enough, I'm like, is that a mega predator? Like, what the fuck?
All right, guys. So, let's see. Let's double check that I am live on the thingy-majogger. Wait, that's not even a word, really. But okay, here we go.
You coined it, dude.
Thingy-majogger.
Yeah. Give me just a minute. I'm finishing up the last couple of. Finishing up a couple of tags. I'm actually uploading my Hereditary review right now, so I'm going to click done and keep it private, and then we can roll.
Oh, well, I was wondering if you wanted to keep it private or if you want to go ahead and let it roll while we're doing our thing, or if you think that's too conflicty, because I don't know if you want your audience to hear your spoilers before they hear your review.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. I guess I probably will let it go live, and I'll just do another. I put a little community post saying that it'd be live, but check out our spoiler talk. But I'll post another one being like, hey, check out mine if you want to, and then come over and just click the little bar back.
Yeah, why don't you do that, and then we'll have CeePee go first. That way, your audience has time to watch your review, and then they can come over and hear your spoilers after that. How does that sound?
That'll work, man. That'll work.
Beautiful. How you doing, CeePee? How you feeling, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good. I just want to make sure you feeling any better at all, or how you doing?
Are you asking health-wise? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir. I am.
Oh, thank you. I have a CAT scan tomorrow, so no tuberculosis, but CAT scan tomorrow. So.
Well, that's good. At least you're off the Oregon Trail at this point.
Well, no. The big C still that's not knocked out yet. So.
Well, I don't know if they had the big C in the Oregon Trail or not.
Oh, right. See, I should have got that reference. I'm not gonna die.
By the way, you died of cancer.
All along, it was a snake bite.
That had nothing to do with the way I'm trying to settle the U.S., motherfuckers. All right. No. Well, I wish you the best, CeePee.
Thank you.
I've been hoping for the best for you, and I hope it turns out well. So, guys. Right. I think it's time to jump into Hereditary now. I listen. Our reviews, for the most part, pale in comparison in views to Cody's, even though he's not quite at our level subscription-wise. His views are like outstanding compared to ours. And CeePee, you've got a regular thing going on with I actually see your thing going on every week, where you talk about like the pop culture stuff of the week, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Show business, where we talk about the weekend before in money and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to start watching that more regularly. So basically, you guys, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird. I should have done this a long time ago.
I'm Ian Fuego.
Go ahead, Cody.
I am Cody Leach, the one and the only.
Absolutely, and CeePee.
I assume so.
I am CeePee of Will I Like It Reviews.
That's right, you guys. And we are all here to talk spoilery about Hereditary. Now, here's the thing. We have done a regular Hereditary review and a spoiler Hereditary review. And so
what do we have left?
They've done pretty well. I think our regular reviews at about 6 and our spoiler reviews at almost 15 with a ton of engagement. So people really like talking about this movie, you guys. And so I wanted to bring on, two of my favorite YouTubers that I only recently discovered, unfortunately. But I really do enjoy these guys. I really do. These guys, along with Lee, who may or may not pop on at some point. He's got a little bit of family life to take care of this weekend. So, of course, not without jumping on and talking about the fact that there's another Halloween being written already. So we see where the ball lies in Lee's court, but that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. But nonetheless, we're excited. I'm actually excited to talk to these guys about this movie because we have talked ourselves to death about it. So frankly, but what's nice about that, I will say before we launch into this, is again the engagement has been tremendous. I need to turn down the volume on this so we're not hearing us secondhand. but the engagement has been amazing. Commenters are having conversations amongst themselves in our comments section, talking about what parts of this movie may or may not have met. So I think it's just a movie that is ripe for discussion. And so I wanted to get some other opinions on the line with us, and then we can refer to some of your comments down the line. But so as it is right now, if you guys are fans of Cody Leach, as you should be, and CeePee, both of their links are in the description box. Or I put them in there. Yeah, so both of their links are in the description box. So go and check out their channels. You can watch Cody's review. I wouldn't advise jumping off right now to do it, but you can watch it after the fact. If you're coming from Cody's review, welcome. But yeah, guys, we're going to talk spoilery about Hereditary. And so I'm going to lead off, since you've heard our spoiler discussion. I want to know, first we'll start with CeePee. CeePee, did you actually do, did you put up a review of Hereditary?
No, foolishly, I said, you know what, that I'm feast or famine on my reviews, and I thought I was too late to the party, so I said, it's not worth it. So
it's never too late, bro. Never too late.
Yeah, I released a trailer for it, and then that was about it. I also want to say, you said that you invited your two of your favorite new horror guys, and I just want to say, thank God Lee didn't make it, and I'm happy to fill those shoes. Two of your favorites and an alternate.
I would have said two, no matter who was on, and the answer would have been two.
Pick the two.
Yeah, I just wouldn't have said who.
Right. We all know that. I have no plans to do a review. So I had, part of it was, I mean, Cody and I were discussing this when we both saw it. I think I have too many questions to say what I think, because I still don't know what I think. And you search around YouTube, and that in the ending explained phenomenon.
Yeah, that is a trend in and of itself.
Yeah,
with, people just doing it when there's no explanation necessary.
Exactly. There's a lot of them. Like, I was clicking on them, and I'm just like, all right, so you just gave the synopsis of the movie. Yeah. There's no ending, nothing. It's yeah. Okay.
You were obviously clickbaiting this. Come on.
Yeah, you got me. Good.
People don't do that.
Never in YouTube. No way.
So yeah, I don't see. A lot of people are comparing it to Rosemary's Baby, but I got a lot of Omen vibes from this movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did too.
Yeah. I don't
did
know.
Now did you, was it okay, here's the thing. We loved it. We thought it was one of the best horror movies of recent years. There were a lot of disturbing things, not necessarily scary per se as disturbing.
Yeah, it was more of a brooding, building kind of thing. And I think that's why it has a D+ on Cinema Score, because a lot of these people went to see it and they thought it was going to be visceral throughout, or gore hounds or whatever, and they didn't get that. It was more ebb and flow, peaks and valleys, and that worked for me. But that's A24, man. So
yeah.
So CeePee, if you like, I get that you have questions, but overall, how did the movie make you feel after you finished it? Like, what was it an enjoyable experience, or was it just a confusing experience?
Oh, I gave it 5 stars. It's a phenomenal movie. There's no doubting that. Well, I mean, I guess there is if you're on Killer Flicks, but
if you're on Killer Flicks, there's doubting every goddamn thing that's ever been done on Killer Flicks.
But yeah, no, I think I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Out of
5.
Okay, cool.
But there's so many different like feels for it. I used to think that Pet Sematary was the best like movie that picked up like the horror of death, like just how dramatic and shitty death is. But I think Hereditary does it way darker and way better. I mean, the thing opens with a funeral, for fuck's sake. Oh,
yeah, I made that comparison.
I started off cursing, but no, you're not allowed to curse.
Okay.
Am I allowed to fucking curse?
Yeah, am I allowed to? Oh shit, am I allowed to? Oh fuck, sorry. No, but I will tell you what. As far as touching on grief and stuff, one of the most effective scenes in this movie was one that was beautifully directed. You saw Peter just outside the room after the mom discovered the body of the daughter, right? After she'd been decapitated and unceremoniously discovered it. But when she's literally on the ground writhing with her husband next to him, and she's like, I just want to die. Like, obviously I'm not Toni Collette, but that was so effective. And I don't remember someone being as raw on because I'd be lying if I didn't say I had almost that level of emotion when my dad died, or when I lost my first cat because of extenuating weird bad circumstances, or even any number of times I can get like crazy with the crying, unfortunately, if it's really personal. So it was really interesting to see that portrayed on film, and that's just one of the reasons why I thought Toni Collette deserves some kind of award from this movie.
Yeah, there's lots of people saying Oscar consideration. Who knows if that will be the case or not, but yeah, she was on point, man. She was ridiculously emotional. There was that one scene which a lot of people were guessing which one we were referencing, if it was, when she was telling Gabriel Byrne's character how much she loved him and all that other stuff before the fire. But I think you and I were talking about the walkthrough before it happened.
Yeah.
She was giving him the explanation.
Because he was just walking so slow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yes, CP, what are some of the other things that really struck you in a spoilery way? Again, we don't want to, this is more about you guys than us, because we've talked about a lot of this. So, you've seen a lot of horror movies just like we have. So there were some instances where we were really caught off guard. Were you caught off guard by those things?
What things? The dramatic aspect?
Okay, so scenes like when the daughter gets decapitated, scenes like when they have that confrontation at the dinner table. Things like that have been done, but this movie seemed to take it to a different level. I'm gonna turn on the AC while he starts to answer.
No, some of the scenes with Wolf and Collette especially were really brutal, man. So were those effective for you? Did you really
absolutely. I wanted to piggyback what Cecil said about her performance there. Like the way that sells is the fact that there's that subtext of guilt, because she was complaining about her daughter before that. And it seems like everything that Toni Collette does in that movie is just she's just riddled with some sort of underlying guilt. And it's not horror in the fashion that people would normally expect horror to be, but it's more like a Babadook type deal, I would say, as far as that, underlying, a lot of mental stuff was going on in that movie. But I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
Well, it was just, how did you feel about Toni Collette? And, are there any specific things that really shocked you, like that moment with the daughter, or like the interaction at the dinner table, anything like that?
The dinner table was raw. I didn't expect it to go. I didn't expect the son to combat that. I expected them to just be like, because the one thing that carried throughout the movie was Toni Collette was so over the top, and everybody else was reserved. So I figured, they're just going to let her do her thing. And I thought, for a little bit, I guess through the first half, I thought maybe that she was just really, really fucked in the head, and I thought maybe that was going to play out somehow, but it went a different direction. Amongst other things, yes. Yeah. But the scene with the decapitation, I didn't think she lost her head. I knew that sealed the deal. What was that? Am I here? Did I skip?
Hello? No, you're good.
Still here. I was laughing about the lost your head bit. I was like,
yeah, so I thought she definitely died. I didn't realize that it was going to be that brutal, because the good Foley work by whoever did it, the sound of the thud, it was just, oh yeah, that's she couldn't breathe before. There's no way she's all right now. But I didn't realize another thing. Did you guys notice that he said he was driving to the hospital, but there was one wide shot where it just looked like he was going into Nowheresville. There was no lights, no nothing.
That goes along with a question that I'll probably bring up in mine, but yeah, that definitely struck odd to me.
Well, they're in this weird rural area. I mean, not even a suburb from my estimation. And so, he was at a party and, driving his damnedest. But yeah, I could see some of the criticism there, though.
I'm not criticizing so much as because Emily made a point when we were walking home that there on the pole that something, there's words on it. and she thinks that it's that logo that's on the wall at the end, that weird thing that the mom had on her necklace or whatever,
the payment symbol or whatever.
Yeah. So like the more I think about it, the more they were setting things up, and perhaps at that point the wheels were already in motion.
Yeah, well, they say that I'll just go ahead and get into it. That was the question that I had, because like one of the big questions that me and CP have kind of been racking our brains over, because we've been discussing this one quite a bit behind the scenes, was how exactly, because they say at the very end of the movie, they suggest that this cult put in motion the events that led to Charlie's death somehow. And so I think it was one of those weird things. I don't know if maybe the son was under some sort of influence with the direction that he was driving or something, but I think that was just like an extra detail that they added in there to kind of make it a little bit less confusing, or a little bit less a little bit less of a plot hole about how that event of that girl getting decapitated was somehow pre-planned out.
Well, that actually makes me think even more Pet Sematary, like, you know, CP was saying, and the fact that just external forces of evil that are so just immense, guiding things in a particular direction to happen. And I mean, obviously he wanted out of her body. He wanted to go into the sun instead. And so...
Guys, by the way, I have no idea why Fuego and I are so pixelated while the other guys are looking good. I'm trying to mess with all the settings off camera, and it is not working. So it looks fine when I'm on the Google Hangouts thing here. So I don't know why it is doing this.
You're pixelated for me. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, me too.
It's it's a bummer. I don't know why it's doing it, but
and Cox gets so much money from you, dude. It's terrible.
Anyway, well, we're not here to talk to us. We're here to talk to them anyway. So I do apologize about that, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Again, my screen looks clear as hell. So unless I'm looking at the actual YouTube stream, so I don't know. I don't know if hanging up and starting again is a good idea. Probably not.
Technology is a bitch.
It's a pain in the ass.
So reliant on
so anyway, all right. Well, Cody, let's get some of your thoughts then. Now, just go overall if you want, because I know you've got a full review that just released on your channel. So if you want to give just a brief overview and then talk about some of the spoilers that struck you the most.
Yeah, I was more in the middle on this movie. A24 is very hit and miss with me. Sometimes I love their kind of non-conventional storytelling, non-conventional filmmaking kind of directions, and other times it tests my patience. This movie kind of fell in the middle. Like I was not a big fan of It Comes at Night at all, and I feel like a lot of that pacing kind of went over into Hereditary, although this was much more of a satisfying experience for me. But Hereditary overall, I liked it. I didn't love it. It didn't blow me away by any means, but I will say that it's a movie that's stuck in my head ever since I've seen it. I've been racking my brain over certain questions. I've been talking to CP. I've been watching these, you know, his ending explained videos, like everything that CP has already said. There's so many questions that I've had that I've actively sought them out. And that doesn't happen very often with a movie for me. Usually I like 2 hours. Okay, cool. This is my opinion. Film my review. And it took until like this afternoon for me to actually sit down and review it, because just like CP said, there was so much gray about my opinion in certain areas that I was like, I wasn't solid on what I thought, but I thought the acting was pretty great all around, although I didn't like Wolf, whatever the guy's first name is, I forget. But the son, there's an aspect of his character as things start to go really, really dark in the end, where he kind of gets devolved into a child to a degree, where he
starts crying like mommy and stuff.
Crying and saying mommy. That really didn't land for me. It felt very corny. That aspect of the acting was the only thing that I nitpicked. But Toni Collette was great. I thought Gabriel Byrne was actually really good because he was so like subdued. It was almost like he was the father that tried to maintain composure because everybody else, especially the mom, was losing their shit so much. So he kind of had to be the strong one. And you'd see him break down whenever he was, he'd break down whenever he was by himself. And then especially at the end, he's like, okay, I'm done. You're just fucking nuts. I thought that the pacing was hard for me because majority of this movie, I found myself wondering what the fuck this movie was about. You know what I mean? I didn't watch any trailers before I went. I walked in.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Anytime a movie gets kind of hyped up like this, I try to avoid trailers because it tends to be a better experience for me. But Yeah. I walked in and the movie started and I was like, oh, okay, so it's going to be a movie about a haunting, because the first thing you see that's like a horror scene is the ghost of the mom in the corner of the room. I'm like, okay, so it's going to be like a haunting movie. And then you kind of get into it and I'm like, well, no, this is more about a family drama surrounding grief and guilt. And then all of a sudden the kid bites it and I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, yeah, it's getting dark quick. And then it kind of meanders a little bit more for maybe an hour. And then it's more about just kind of internal family dramas kind of making everybody go nuts. And then all of a sudden there's like satanic possession thrown in at the end. So it was a movie that took a long time for me to kind of get wherever it was on a clear path. But it's a movie that I think will improve upon further viewings for me. Like the rating that I gave it in my review is probably not going to be a permanent rating. It's probably going to go up a little bit or go down a little bit, because the only thing that's really frustrating me, which overall, which CeePee already hinted at, is there are some questions that I have that I've racked my brain, I've looked online, I've watched videos, I've come up with explanations, and I genuinely think there's a couple of things in this story that is just flat out holes. I don't think that there is like some explanation that's out there that nobody's uncovered yet, and that disappoints me sometimes when you have a movie that's so ironclad with its writing and with its ideas and with, these things in the beginning that don't make sense until you see the ending, so you have to go back. But whenever you have a couple of things in there that feel like plot conveniences, like the maybe or maybe not the way that he went to try to go to the hospital felt a little bit convenient. I also have no idea why the fuck Gabriel Byrne burst into flames instead of Toni Collette, and I cannot figure out why. Like things like that frustrate me a little bit.
It did feel like the rules changed a little bit throughout the movie.
Yeah, it felt like kind of like convenient writing just to keep the movie flowing, and just like, shh, I know it doesn't make sense, but just keep watching.
I'm sure the writer, him or herself could say, actually, no, that what happened was blah, 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 blah. But unless you're that actual person, it does seem a little unanswered, because, I felt the same way. I was like, well, because the first, one of the commenters in our spoiler review, the person said that the first time she was scared and not actually wanting to destroy the book, whereas the second time she was, and the book was just defending itself, so it wasn't going to burn her, it was going to burn him instead as a punishment. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but that's convenient, and that's like a stretch for us to assume as an audience.
Well, it's just the strength of the spiritual power, just seeing that it was about to die and trying to hurt her even more, which is why I don't think that was the mother taking her over in that particular point, like we talked in the spoiler review. I don't know.
Well, what about the spirit knowing that if it somehow, like my explanation for self-explanation, I'm not claiming to be an authority, please. Was that the spirit knew that Toni Collette wasn't completely convinced, and by setting her arm on fire, that would help convince her a bit. So, granted, it's a little faulty, but maybe that helped it convince her for later things in the movie.
Yeah, I just think this whole movie epitomized great interpretive nature. I mean, especially where there's so many scenes that you're like, is it a dream? Is it really transpiring? Whatever. And I mean, and they just kept it that way, I think, to keep you on your toes and on edge and whatnot, just to make you wonder, okay, was this really happening? Was every connective tissue that I think is there, actually present? So, I just feel like that uncertainty was the nature of the film. And I will give Cody credit that's convenience, man. That's just being like, oh, I don't have to explain everything. That's just the nature of my approach. So blah, blah. But
now here's the other question that I had, which it might be an easy explanation, but this one I haven't dived into as much. What exactly took over Toni Collette to make her chase her son and then saw her own fucking head off?
I think it was her mom. I think it was the grandmother that died at the beginning of the movie that came back and sort of possessed her in order to complete her mission. Because again, she was sort of the behind the scenes thing. The kid even says at one point, she wants her grandmother because she loves her grandmother, but she also says, grandma wanted me to be a boy. And that's because the demon wanted a boy to possess. And that's why you see when I can't even remember who's going through the stuff in the attic. I think it was Toni Collette. And she sees the other Matts, and she saw Charles. as one of the mats, and that's because the grandmother wanted a boy, so she knitted Charles, and then Charles ended up coming out Charlie instead. So like they laid the track along the way. It was pretty neat, and so I really dug on that, and that's why I thought that it made the most sense that it was the grandmother that took over Toni Collette, because the grandmother was still, again, it sort of made sense with the title, the hereditary thing. So the grandmother possessed the mother and then just completed the task, even headless towards the end. So, but yeah, just real briefly, before we get to whether or not that worked for you, Cody, let's welcome in Jason from Sinister Cinema Reviews. Welcome, sir.
What's up, man?
Hey, guys. I just wanted to stop in for a minute and say hi because I'm doing stuff. I didn't want to miss out on this, but I wanted to come in and say howdy to everyone.
Well, we appreciate that. Then let's get your thoughts on some spoilers that you wanted to throw out. Then, if you've got limited time, let's hit you real quick.
Did you bring your watermelon?
I don't know where, where you guys are at.
They want a cameo from the watermelon. I don't know.
I'm not at my house. No watermelon, please.
All right.
We were talking about me and CeePee.
I have half a watermelon upstairs right now.
Go ahead, Cody. What were you going to say?
Me and CeePee already gave kind of our brief, whether we liked it or not, and our pros and cons. But we were basically just kind of starting to dive into some of the questions we had, like, are they plot holes, or did maybe CeePee have an explanation that I didn't have, or we were just kind of talking about anything in the movie that maybe confused you.
The only thing that I wasn't huge on, I mean, I pretty much outright thought the movie was almost flawless. The only thing that I had an issue with, and that didn't sit right with me on my first viewing, was just the blatant exposition at the very, very end. Explanation of everything that was so clear of this is what it is and this is how, and it was it seemed so unnecessary. It seemed like a decision by studio heads in the last minute of explain it to dumb audiences, please.
Yeah, it was a little heavy-handed instead of letting you connect the dots yourself.
It seemed like all the dots were connected.
I thought so too.
I was sitting there I don't need you to tell me this. I figured this out for myself. I'm not an idiot. So, hold on, guys. I'll be right in.
Yeah, they were going for shock factor.
They're already on you. All right. Well, what were some of the most shocking spoiler moments that you couldn't talk about in your review?
The what?
What are some of the most shocking spoiler moments that you liked that you couldn't hit on in your regular review?
Well, I think the first one that was just kind of the jaw-dropping moment. And I think this is mostly just kind of and when I say misleading, I mean this in a very positive way, but the misleading trailer that this little girl was going to be a central character here. And the fact that she sticked her head out the window and then bam, her head gets taken off and you're just sitting there oh, she's dead. We're not focusing on this kid here. So that took me by surprise heavily. And I mean, it's such a gruesome scene for a 13-year-old girl to get her head clipped off while she's dying of anaphylactic shock. But I think the one, I don't really get scared in films. I mean, we're all desensitized so much at this point, but I was definitely having, I guess uncomfortable anxiety is my scaredest I get. And that's where I was during the scariest or the most unsettling scene for me would be probably just that scene where she's up in the corner and then he pans down and then you just see her silently kind of float crawl out of the room,
skitter away.
I don't know what the hell that was about that. And then when she her headless body flies up into the treehouse.
Yeah,
that was some eerie shit. And then the head's banging on the wall and then she's cutting her own neck. So slowly, and it's just the look on her face and the arm behind the kid's head when he's possessed in the classroom and the fucking whatever that was going on in his face. I don't know what that was, but looked like he was having an aneurysm or an embolism or something, and you're just dude, get this kid a doctor quick.
Well, and that stuff I just kind of assumed was that spirit floating around because it was no longer in Charlie after she died, and it hadn't kind of habitated in Alex Wolff's character quite yet. So, I mean, those are little glimmers.
So you guys are under the assumption that Charlie was the host
Oh, she totally was.
For the movie, and then when she died, it was just kind of out there.
Yeah, trying to find a new home.
Yep.
Because, I mean, I guess you could look at it possibly as if maybe, because when they say at the end, you know, sorry for that, like, female host that was, like, you know, not what you want a guy, like, you want a male. Like in the Paranormal Activity series, like, Toby's looking for a male, and the family hasn't had one for generations and waiting to possess somebody. Like, I almost took it as if Toni Collette's character was possessed by him for a moment, and then it's expelled.
Maybe for a moment.
Once
I guess that's possible.
Head off, that's like him being released, because we see that light that focusing onto the wall, and then it focuses into his body. Like,
we didn't see where it came from though.
Out of her until like her body had to go up there and kind of kneel to that statue. But I don't know. Her head was there as the deity. That's tough. I don't know.
No, that wasn't her head. That was the kid's head.
No, that's
to me, it almost seemed like maybe like that spirit, like maybe the kid Charlie was like his first human host. Like that was the one that the grandmother groomed from birth, wouldn't let her the mom breastfeed her or anything. So I kind of took it as either because that was his first host, or because he was hosting her body for so long that Charlie and Payman kind of became one to a degree. And then
wait.
But why wouldn't they put it in the first son? I mean,
their explanation was Toni Collette didn't let the son anywhere near the grandmother, which felt like another like kind of convenience to me, because it felt like this cult's not going to be stopped that easily. But
if he could be possessed now, what was stopping them from possessing him any time before that?
I actually think the possession guys stretched even further back, which is why the brother committed suicide. I think that the grandmother was trying to get this like king of hell or whatever into that kid, and then he commits suicide, and you know, Toni Collette maybe had a residual portion of that spirit in her or something, which is why she was so conflicted. But
the aim in the game, right? I mean, the whole aim in the game here is to get this whatever the hell it is into somebody's body, into the boy's body. But in order to set that up, they had this other chick befriend her and get her to do this ritual to open it up. So to me, that means the spirit was not able to get released until she was calling upon it. Do you know what I mean? Like they had to have that girl come to her, befriend her, and give her the spell to you know, to say aloud with the candle and let it in.
Are you guys of the I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Are you guys of the mentality that Charlie was possessed the whole time?
Yeah,
from birth.
I was.
I'm not saying.
Because I don't like, my question is, why open with the grandmother's funeral then? Like, because that was clearly some sort of key moment in.
Well, that guy smiling at her really weird. The kid at the
at the funeral,
well, you know that was one of the naked people at the end, right? Exactly. Like all the people surrounding the house at the beginning of the movie were all the naked people at the end of the movie.
Because I thought it was funny, because when I saw that in the movie, I thought they were hinting towards he was going to be like a pedophile, that, you know. And then when I saw him at the end, I was like, oh, okay, so the whole cult was around them at that time. So he was smiling at her because she was going to become the vessel, possibly. I mean, but why would it transfer to her if he could never? I don't know. That's hard, because it feels like he couldn't possess her body. And if he was possessing her body, why wasn't she more evil throughout? Like, yes, she cut the head off of a bird and whatnot, but she didn't exhibit.
Because she was just a kid, though. She was just a kid.
There's that constant theme of decapitation throughout this whole damn movie.
I guess my argument is that the mom, Toni Collette's character, has godlike powers. Did the grandmother exhibit any kind of powers like that? Like, she was straight up evil when she was possessed. Like, she was hiding up in corners. She was able to fly. She was able, like, she's more of a god or like a demon or whatever than
like borderline teleportation too, because remember, she chased him up those stairs and then suddenly she's up in the attic sawing her head off.
Right, and that was, to me, her cutting her own head off was to kill herself so that he could exit her body and go into the sun like he needed to.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking now to the funeral at the very beginning, and where Colette's character is like, there's a lot of faces I don't recognize, so those are all presumably
All the
cult
cult followers.
This
whatever
film's
people.
definitely gonna take a couple watches to grab everything. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this for sure.
Tons of it. Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, that first
around,
drawing. Did you guys notice
like
the
when they
first
walk
drawing?
in.
The first drawing they zoomed in on was the bird with a crown.
Right.
And like I was like, it stuck with me the whole time. And then the last shot was the sun with the crown. I'm like, oh motherfucker! They showed us this shot at the very beginning of the movie with the first drawing we saw.
There's also that thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things like you just don't even know. Like I caught them as I was watching them, and I started to piece them together. Like when they keep walking in the house, they're like, "What's that smell?" They do it so subtly.
Yeah,
but it's like,
and there's flies towards the middle too.
Someone in the attic dying, dead, and it's just there's tons of foreshadowing all throughout this film. That
very nuanced.
You'll pick up on second viewings much better.
Cody, some thoughts from you?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's one of the things that I actually said in my review. I said, despite all my thoughts now, this is a movie that requires at least a second viewing. It's kind of like I compared it to Shutter Island. Like you can watch Shutter Island once, and you can never watch it the same way again. And it's going to be the same thing with this movie. You're going to watch it and you're going to pick up on things. But yeah, it's there's things that somehow make sense, and then all of a sudden you remember that one detail that kind of negates your thoughts. Because like the whole thing with Charlie, like had whenever the payman possesses the son at the very end, had he not made that sound, then you would never like if they didn't do that, you just be like, oh, okay, well he just possessed the son. But because he made that sound, Charlie and the demon is in him somehow. So I'm trying to. That's one of those things where I'm like, there's got to be a reason why they've kind of bonded together somehow, Charlie and this payman demon. And I don't know, like the same thing. I'm wondering if she's been possessed since birth, which is what it seems like they were saying. Why wasn't she more evil? And then I'm trying to think about, well, what's the point of her making all these headless dolls and cutting the bird's head off? And then I'm wondering why the grandmother didn't possess the son. There's so many questions that I desperately want answers to.
Let me interject with one. Do you guys know who it was a very Invasion of the Body Snatchers shot for me when right before the daughter cuts off, or right before Charlie cuts off the bird's head, there's somebody across the street that's saying something to her. Do you guys know who that was?
It was one of the cult members just kind of waving.
Was
it was the same.
Yeah.
It was
same with the kid, right? Or with Alex Wolff's character, where it's like, I banish you or I expound you. Or
well, and then Joni was yelling at him towards the end too, right? And Joni was yelling at someone. Right. I can't remember who, but yeah, like that whole thing. I thought that was.
I think he's having like a dream or like a dreamlike state because he's at like a lunch table by himself and he's looking around his school and then he sees like her across the street. Like yelling at him.
Yeah, nobody else is reacting. Right.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you guys. Go ahead.
I don't know if she was only being able to be seen by him, or if he was dreaming, or. I mean, this is just I think there's just lots of things open for interpretation, and we'll just be arguing this till the end of time. Like, well, I think it's this, and I think it's that, which is fine. I mean, I think that's great. Ambiguity, in film is wonderful. So, yeah. I'd like to watch the film again. We should all watch it together.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there it is.
Be in the theaters, hold up myself and be like, yeah.
All right.
I gotta go, guys. Thank you.
Jason, good to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Jason. We really appreciate it.
I want more Tales from the Crypt, Jason.
I know. Oh my God. Okay, I'm on it.
You and I have to do a video discussing our favorite episodes.
Yeah, you guys will have to do a special Tales from the Crypt wrap-up video since you guys will have both watched the entire series.
I could do more of this. I really do. But where's Lee?
He's dealing with an anniversary of some kind.
He's got a Halloween update.
There you go. Yeah. He's dissecting the newest fucking image that was released.
Oh, he's happy.
You guys are brutal. Terrible. And now I'm thinking of the meme you did with the milking of the cow and everything.
All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Jason. You have a good night, brother.
Later, guys. Have a good one. I'll watch this later. See what you guys.
All right. Now I'll go drop the link for your channel in the description box as well.
And we'll see you at Mad Monster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, we'll get together soon. I'm down here a lot more often, so I can come over to your guys' place sometime and record live there.
Dude, anytime you want, you're welcome.
Sweet, man.
All right, I'll hit you guys up. All right,
Sweet.
It's good talking.
Later.
Take it easy.
Later, guys.
All right, so let me put that in his in the description box.
While you're doing that, I thought he was talking about heavy-handed. In the beginning, when they talked about the EpiPen, I couldn't elbow Emily hard, and I was like, Chekhov's gun. They're gonna fucking talk about this later.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to be, second act. I was like, oh, all right. I didn't realize that we were paying that off that quickly, but okay.
Yeah, that happened really quick.
I do that to Holly all the time. If Holly had been with me, I would have did that. But and this is gonna sound really bad and awesome at the same time. I actually took my 7-year-old daughter to watch this movie. So if she would have understood, I would have been like, I wonder if that's going to come into play later. Like,
it's like, Dad, I'm having nightmares of being decapitated.
I can't breathe. Just stick your head on the way.
My kids are fucking bulletproof. Like, whenever I first got with Holly, they were a little bit iffy. And then whenever I watched Nightmare on Elm Street with Bella for the first time, she was like, just like me, she was like instantly hooked. So she actually was the one for 2 weeks prior to seeing this. She was the one tapping me on the shoulder. Does Hereditary come out, or does Hereditary come out this weekend? So. And it was funny because I was worried. I don't know if this movie is going to be too much, what it's going to be about. And anytime like the audience like audibly gasped, she would have this evil smile and she'd be like, yeah.
Well, man.
Well, better
you're raising her right.
Where did she sit on the way home?
She was fine.
She was fine sitting in the car.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You're doing it right, Cody.
She was hanging out the window and shit. Like,
she was like, I mean, you know what? Yeah, you're doing it right. If she's acting like the little girl hanging out the window, that's awesome.
She'll be more level-headed by the time she's 10 than all the other 10yealth.
Level-headed.
I keep doing that.
It's glorious, dude.
It's my subconscious.
All right, so what are some of the other moments that really got you guys that were sort of that could be considered spoilery? Like, because here, one of the things that I loved the imagery of the headless bodies bowed to the king at the end. Like, I thought that was really extra disturbing, seeing Toni Collette's headless body and her grandmother's bloated, black, distended, like gross body, headless, also bowing. And it was like
attic stench.
Man, it was like so, like the imagery again, I'm going to remember it for a long time, which is, that's a real feather in a horror movie's cap nowadays.
One of the most uneasy sequences for me was the time period between her getting her head knocked off and Toni Collette finding it. Because I didn't know, because the camera just fixates on his face the whole time. And you don't know if he just goes home in shock and just goes to sleep. I didn't know if he buried the body somewhere. I didn't know if he just left it. Like, I wasn't sure where the movie was going at that point. And then whenever it finally got there, it was like extra disturbing that he just drives home with his fucking sister's bleeding, decapitated body in the back seat, and then just gets quietly out and goes, like in shock, just, like lays in bed and waits. And then Toni Collette comes outside and finds her daughter fucking hanging out of a car. That was
awesome. That
yeah, that whole scene, and the fact that they didn't actually show you her seeing her was actually
it was all audio
better.
Dude, I thought that was an especially brilliant filmmaking choice, just staying on the kid, as he listened to it, because he laid down at night and then it sped up to the day when she goes outside. It's like, all right, I'm off to the store, blah, 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 blah. And then just the blood curdling screams and his expression doesn't change.
Well,
and it's
and
like also
just
so good.
Just the false sense of, we're not going to see it. We're not going to see it. And then boom, you see
it. And then it cuts to the head with flies buzzing around and laying in the fucking dirt while the mom screams in the background. I was like, oh my God. Jesus. I didn't think we were going to actually see that.
Yeah, it was especially disturbing too, maybe like 15, 20 minutes later, whenever Gabriel Byrne walks in and she's making a diorama of the accident.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, at that point, he's like done. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And like, as
my wife's mind is fucked. There is no turning back at this point.
Yeah, as a father, that kind of hit me. I was like, oh my God, she's like relishing in it. And that's really
cool. Like imagine you walked in on your wife who's dealing with this and you see her having created this diorama and she's literally, when he walks in, she's painting the blood from the head beside the head. It's like so disturbing, man.
Yeah. I'm looking at it from a neutral position.
Yeah, from a neutral position. Yeah, exactly. By the way, like the cinematography in the movie was amazing. Did you guys like the dollhouse pan into the real movie at the beginning?
Yeah,
it was cool.
What was your guys' take on the whole dollhouse angle? Because that was so heavy in this movie.
Big time, in fact.
I think it was just them, here's the thing. You want to give a sort of depth to your characters. And while it didn't necessarily come into play story-wise outside of that moment when she made the diorama of the accident, it was just a nice sort of detail / backdrop for scenes to play out in. You know, it gave them a nice set with all the dollhouses to go back to, while Toni Collette is having, you know, and the other movie could have just been her sitting in the kitchen staring into a coffee cup. You know what I mean? This is just being more creative about that. Well, so I give it a pass, because while it may not have played sort of an overarching role in the film, I think that it actually did, because it showed that this was her escape. And even now in her escape, she's focused so heavily on what has changed in her life. And I don't know. I understand people's criticism of it, but I don't think it's as big as an issue as some people are making it.
Well, they showed the house as a dollhouse countless times, not just at the beginning. And I just felt it was a compelling visual cue. I don't know if there was any additional symbolism.
Well, and you could also look at it like, you know, if the whole movie is a representation of a dollhouse and players being moved around by Payman, you know,
a lot of the shots
he's the person playing with all of his toys throughout the whole movie. So they are generally representations. The big house, they are still being pawns by some bigger player that we're just not seeing.
Which is a good point, because I think that is at the heart of the movie in a lot of ways.
Now, something that kind of just came to my mind right now as we were filming this, and I'm curious what you guys, your take is, the scene whenever Toni Collette is actually doing like the whole seance with her husband and her son. There's this spot where she gets possessed by something, which we're told kind of is Charlie. But do you guys actually believe it was Charlie, or do you believe it was like Payman trying to get a reaction out of the son? Because the way she was speaking about, like, why is she crying, mommy? She's like talking totally fluid. The kid, Charlie, never really spoke that way. She was always kind of reserved, didn't really emote a whole lot, didn't speak very much. And then all of a sudden she takes over Toni Collette supposedly, and she's speaking completely fluent English. So it's, I don't know if that was Charlie, or if maybe like just going along with the whole puppet on the strings thing, and maybe that was the grandmother or Payman or somebody kind of taking her over for a second just to scare the shit out of the son, to make him more susceptible to the possession by the end of the movie.
I think it was Payman Charlie. I think it was Charlie. I think it was just Charlie being like, we didn't really necessarily see Charlie at her super scaredest. Like if she hadn't been gasping for breath, maybe she would have been as vocal as that version of Charlie would have been, because she was obviously freaked out. She's like, why is he screaming? You know, what's going on? Where am I? That sort of shock. It was Charlie, but I think it was also Payman. Like that's the thing. I think maybe the merging of Payman and Charlie was never like fully like 100%. I think Payman was there the whole time. I don't think he was necessarily controlling Charlie the whole time.
So they weren't like completely synonymous.
Not completely, because it wasn't the vessel that he wanted. So he wasn't necessarily, I guess you could say, he wasn't fully committed.
So he couldn't take full hold of it because of that.
This is just, you know, this is just me doing a no prize explaining it away, old school Marvel style. But like, you know, that would be my explanation if I had to. But I personally saw it as the Payman Charlie. It was Charlie. Because again, they used literally the Charlie voice. Like I love when they do that. By the way, as much as it might be quote unquote overused in film, I love when mediums get possessed and actually take on the voice of the person, you know, that they're being possessed by and stuff. It feels just more genuine than like the old ghost thing where Whoopi Goldberg still sounds like Whoopi Goldberg. You know what I mean?
I'm still a firm believer, though, in something I said in the other spoiler review, and the fact that when you open those gates to, you know, other worlds or whatever, something can say that it is what you want it to be, but there is no guarantee that that is in fact the case. And, you know, spirits can be very manipulative and so on. And
well,
yeah.
Here's a better question. Who was it then when the woman was showing Toni Collette? Like that
was one of the Payman followers that was friends with the grandmother. She was very close with the grandmother.
No. Who was when she was doing the seance?
Which spirit was it? Was it the grandchild or whatever?
Right.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Who was the person that convinced Toni Collette that they were actually spirits?
Yeah, who was writing on the chalkboard or whatever was being used to convince Toni Collette? What was that?
You mean at Joni's house?
Yeah, Joni's house. Yes, thank you, Joni.
Yeah, I would still honestly think it was the presence of that.
Her kid.
Well, no, I would honestly say that's the presence of that king of hell or, you know, whatever.
I disagree. Well, okay, no, I don't
So
disagree.
the whole family members
don't
thing
know.
being in the same house is bullshit then. That's just
No, I think it could have been Payman messing with her, but I also think it could have been, if Joni is as much of a Payman worshiper as it seemed to be, because
she totally was.
You know,
I mean, come on.
then why wouldn't Payman have necessarily rewarded her with some appearances of her kid? I don't know that necessarily was Payman just messing with Toni Collette as much as Payman knowing that rewarding Joni would also convince Toni Collette for his own purposes. Maybe that's just giving the movie the benefit of the doubt. You might be more in tune with what, you know, a bit of a whole. But again, I approach this as like looking at the no prize sort of thing, where I don't know if you guys know what a no prize is. Marvel Comics, back in the day when Stan Lee was still doing Stan's Soapbox, people would like write in with issues like, wait, how could this be if this character was this? And he would actually give a no prize for people that would write in and explain it for Marvel. Be like, well, if they had done this, then it would be okay for them to have done this. So I think there's a lot of that going on with the explanation of Hereditary,
which is totally what Cody was saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, for real. I just
round and round we go.
literally giving it a name for comic fans. So anyway, jump back in, guys. What are some other thoughts that you had,
Cody?
Oh, I'm trying to think of something else that confused me.
I actually have one that I really dug. I mean, I could jump in really quick and just, even though it was a dream sequence, dudes, I should say, all of us duders. That scene where she was like, "I never wanted you," and then just like puts her hand on her mouth, and I know it was a dream sequence and everything, but I still feel like it personified so much about the dynamic between the two of them, and just how strained and fractured and totally fucked it was in a lot of ways. And then suddenly, they're covered in paint thinner. And
I just loved that. That was a prime example of a filmmaker knowing how to keep the audience off balance, because it's like you're watching this and you're seeing this hugely dramatic scene out of nowhere where she's like, "I never wanted to have you." And then it's like she's been struck with a truth ray or something, and she just has to keep going. And then they're talking, and then they cut back to her, and she's drenched. And they cut to him, and he's drenched. And you're like, before your brain can fully process what's going on, they cut back to her, and the flames go up, and you're like, oh shit, they're covered. What the fuck is going on? Like, this movie, I have to continue to give it credit for keeping the audience off balance. That is something that not enough films do. And I have to give it credit where credit is due for that, because there's so many formulas that we know. Like, look, I love Lee. I love everyone on Killer Flicks for being super excited about Halloween, but we could all pretty much probably predict what how the storyline of Halloween is going to carry out as compared to Hereditary. You know what I mean? If there's two H movies you want to compare as far as predictability goes, Hereditary is going to take it, because it's just not so for the most part, at least for me. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. But that to me sets it apart.
Exactly. No, that's what I was saying. And it was in the middle. It was like a positive and a negative that I had no idea where the hell the movie was going until like maybe the last 15 minutes. I was like, what's the plot here? And then, but to your previous point about the whole thing where she's like, you know, I never wanted to have you under, you know, I think that's one of the themes that this movie goes for too, which like CeePee compared it to Babadook was a big theme in Babadook, which is kind of those forbidden thoughts of being a parent. Right. You know, you're supposed to unconditionally love your kids no matter what, but we all have those split minute, you know, 0.0001 second where, you know, your kid knocks over a vase and shits their pants and fucking, you know, colors on the wall
at the same time. Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying, you know, you have those little 0.001% of the second where you're like, fuck, life would be easier if you weren't here. You're like, oh, I can't think about that. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those things. Yeah, I think there was one of those things that they kind of go for in this movie that they went for in the Babadook, and they, especially between the mom and the son, where it's like this strained thing about, you know, they never had the best relationship, but there's times where, like, obviously by the end of the movie with what she's willing to do with burning this book, she loves her son unconditionally. But there's moments like when she's losing her shit at the dinner table where she's just like, fuck you. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where that constant love where it's just like in a marriage where sometimes you love the person and you hate them at the same exact time and the same exact equal amounts. I mean, it's that weird kind of back and forth about people that you love. You know, it's you love them unconditionally, but sometimes those little fractions of a second, you're like, fucking God. You know what I mean?
Which kid have you thought that about, Cody? Tell us.
Who's your least favorite?
This is fiction. This is
This is fiction. Sure. Yeah.
It's all hearsay and exposition and whatnot, and you know.
Do you guys think the mental health aspect was a bit of a misdirection? Because I thought that was going to play.
I found the mental health thing was the real world's explanation for the people that did not want to be a part of this cult, like how they responded to it. Like the kid supposedly having schizophrenia, saying she's trying to put people inside of me, when in reality she is trying to put somebody inside of them. I think that's what it was. It was just, you know, this person's crazy whenever you look at it from a rational standpoint, but whenever you're in their shoes, it's like they're not fucking crazy. They're in the, you know, their family's in this cult and they're trying to get the fuck out.
Right.
That's actually an explanation I've always liked, is the fact some people have posited the idea that while crazy people, you know, homeless people that seem just crazy talking to themselves, what if it's because they actually had an experience with the paranormal of some kind and it's just driven them to this insane place? Like I always kind of thought, you know, that yes, that's not the case for all of them, but what if that was the case for some of them? I think that's, even that alone is an interesting sort of story to tell, you know?
Yeah, and I thought that the byproduct here was just, I mean, that's why there was the mental health issues, was because so many dark forces surrounding her upbringing, her family in its entirety. And I just like the fact that she was like, I didn't want you. And I always figured that the reason she didn't want to have a child was she was fighting against this dark force that was pushing her towards manifesting this demon, this king of hell and stuff. And she's like, nope, I'm going to try to kill the kids so that I can't let this, you know, presence manifest itself. And she fought it for years and years, for most of her life. And then it finally, at the end of the film, took hold, and there was no turning back, unfortunately. So
that's certainly the other half of it. Now, are we under the assumption that the grandmother is the one who kind of started this cult? Because I
was just going to ask that.
Obviously there's got to be.
You guys are so simpatico. Y'all should go on a date.
This is how it happens. But
that's the vibe I got. But
there's obviously some reason why her bloodline is like the chosen ones, and there's a reason why she's in all the pictures being, you know, hailed with coins and shit. And then you get to the end of the film and it's got a picture of her with Queen so-and-so. And like, when I saw that, I was like, I wonder if she's possessed by like the fiend. But then I was like, no, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. But I was wondering if that's what we're kind of.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't think that we ever got a very concrete answer on that, because I think, to me, the way I took it is that this was Payman's first ability to, like if the grandmother wasn't the first one, then she never had the male heir, right? She just had Toni Collette. And so that's why she could never fulfill it. So then Toni Collette became the new hope for the cult. So I don't know that we ever really got an idea of how far back the cult went. Did Toni Collette's mom actually disappoint her mom because she did not bear a male heir, and it came from even previous generations?
Well,
I think that's one of the.
I thought Toni Collette's brother killed himself or something like that, or died.
Right.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. So there you. But again, that doesn't really shed any light on whether or not the mom was the first one or not. I got the impression that not. I got the impression this has been Payman's attempts for a while, and this was just the first perfect sort of storm, as imperfect as it was.
I honestly think it extended even further than the grandmother, though, because think about the fact that the husband of the grandmother starved himself to death, presumably because he felt the force that was going to go into
taken
him.
over.
I mean,
that's smart.
We're talking generation after generation after generation of aversion and trying not to let it happen because they felt the evil that wanted to possess them, and they just couldn't handle hanging with it. I mean, and as
that's
old
true.
as that
Actually,
book
we have a comment
was,
here from High Desert 004 says Payman must have possessed other people. Somebody obviously wrote an instruction book.
So
true.
Yeah.
True.
And the age of that book is where I look at it. So once death, I mean, he's wandering around looking for a new vessel, and who knows how long that could be.
I kind of like that Payman is just like, and here's where there was some hyperbole in the advertising for this movie, where it was like a new generation's exorcism. Hey, maybe Payman is this generation's Pazuzu, right? We don't know a lot about either one, the behind the scenes and stuff, and this is, I don't know, why not? I'll give it that.
What's your guys' explanation for this? Because me and CP were kind of racking our brains on this one too. What about the grandmother's death kind of started all of this? Like, why did they not do it previous to that? Like, you know, obviously she had supposed dementia for 3 years, and she was in Toni Collette's home, so maybe she didn't quite have the leader status in the cult, and the cult was just kind of chilling out in the background until she passed. But like, what was the kicking point?
The movie kicks off with her funeral. Why is that so important?
I think you just spelled it out, Cody, you know, and the fact that maybe the dementia threw her off from being the total Jim Jones, Koresh, whatever, that could steer the ship the way it needed to go down. And, you know, maybe that threw the trajectory off course a little bit. And then
maybe the cult was just interested to see what would happen once she, you know, like, hey, will things get back on track once she's gone? Or maybe, okay, so here's the thing. Maybe the cult was stalled, right, for those 3 years.
Yeah, that's
because
what
they're, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to piggyback on what you're saying.
So with that,
but just real quick, they were stalled. And so for 3 years, they didn't progress. And they knew that either their leader would come out of it, probably not likely, or would go away, and then it would be up to them to continue on from there. And I think that's what ended up happening.
Well, that's what we were kind of thinking too. But then I don't know where in the dementia did all of a sudden they say, well, I mean, if the grandmother's sole goal is to get Payman into her grandson's body at some point, or at least keep it in the granddaughter's body, I'm not sure where her direction to the cult changed of don't do anything right now. You know what I mean? We're pausing this whole Payman shit for a while, and then all of a sudden she can't change her mind. Or it's either that, or when she died, suddenly she's in spirit form and she's lucid again, and then she gives him the go-ahead. But then she wrote that note at some point to Toni Collette saying, you know, I'm sorry for everything, but this will all be in reward at some point. So, I mean, there was some point where she put an end game into place, and I'm just confused about where the tipping point came for the cult of, okay, she's dead, now we can start.
I think lazy writing could excuse it because they could say that this was always Payman's plan, because again, going all the way back to the first drawing that we see from Charlie is a bird with a crown, meaning she, aka Payman, knew that all the events of this movie are going to end with him in the body of the boy wearing the crown. Right. So that leads me to believe that Payman thought it was all a foregone conclusion. So no matter what, all of it was still leading down this road. And so everyone was just fulfilling their roles. And who knows what the cult was told? Who knows? Maybe the grandmother told the cult this. Look, here's the thing, guys. Payman's stuck in this granddaughter. I'm keeping a close eye on her. She thinks I love her. I'm keeping a close eye on her, but Payman's stuck there until we're going to go through a period of time where I'm going to be out of commission for 3 years. But then after that, boom, it's your guys' job to jump in, step in, and make sure Payman gets where he needs to go. And so, like, you know, this all could be assumed by us. Again, going for the no prize, explaining it away. That's unfortunately that's the situation that we're in. But that's also something that I would never have to do for a Halloween movie. Do you see what I'm saying?
Shots fired.
You know what I'm just saying, like, how awesome is it that we've gone through this is now our second long form spoiler discussion about this movie, and we're just now hitting on these things.
The more you guys talk,
I didn't even think about, you know,
the more you guys talk about it, the more I think that Payman is in the grandmother until she dies, because there's also that vision or whatever when Charlie walks down and there's that fire or whatever. What was that? And that's right before she goes to the party.
Oh, good call.
True.
Yeah, where she was walking out and the mother's like, "What are you out here with no shoes on?" and blah blah blah.
That's true.
Right.
I had not even thought about that scene until you just read.
I think Payman was trying to lead her down that road of getting her head fucking knocked off.
I feel like the one detail of this movie, if it would change, the movie makes so much more sense, and that's the cult or the evil presence somehow making this accident happen. I feel like the movie works perfectly if that was legitimately an accident, and then all of a sudden, fuck, Payman's vessel is done. now we got to get some shit going. Now we got to get this kid groomed. We got to start fucking with this family. Then you bring in Joni to start influencing Toni Collette. Like, I feel like the movie works so much better if they had changed that one detail or left out that one little line of dialogue at the end of the movie that Jason was talking about, where, you know, the grandmother would, like you said, was keeping an eye on Charlie. Charlie may not be the vessel he wants, but it's the vessel he's got. Everything's cool. The kid's kind of fucked in the head anyway. Everything's going along. The grandmother dies. Now she's no longer protecting her. And as soon as she dies, all of a sudden nature takes its course. The fucking kid loses its head, and the cult's like, shit, now we got to do some shit to get him a new vessel.
I still feel like stuff didn't even kick into gear, though. As opposed to saying it was the grandmother's death, I think it was Charlie's death that really kicked like, you know, things.
Well, but except we saw the followers around the house early on when they were first sort of walking up and stuff like that. The first time they were all surrounding it in some way, shape, or form. Again, at the funeral was the old man ends up that waves at Charlie ends up being the naked guy towards the end, and then other people around the house are all the naked people at the end. So there was obviously something going on even before.
There was festering,
but maybe they were just there to watch.
Yeah.
To make sure.
Did they say why it had to be somebody related?
You mean the hereditariness of it all?
Yeah. Cute
I
titles.
was kind of getting at with it, whether she started the cult or something. There's got to be some reason why that grandmother's more important than everybody else.
Right. Because what, like,
I agree. Actually,
like,
yeah.
If the Toni Collette's brother killed himself, you would think maybe if it's not hereditary, you would think they'd be like, all right, well, we don't have a guy, so let's.
Yeah, but you also had Joni's son and grandson die mysteriously too. So I was thinking that too. Like, okay, so are we just switching now, or is it like the whole?
If that was even true, though, honestly, I mean, maybe she was just lying about that, and, you know, just trying to gain similar sympathy from.
It's probably a cult full of people trying to raise him, and they're all trying. I mean, look, we've all watched enough horror movies. You're a demon. Are you going to be very specific about what family, or are you going to spread the wealth and be like, okay, you try, and you try, and we'll see who ends up getting me out of this fucking bullshit first.
And are you going to be genuinely honest about everything anyway? I mean, there's a lot of misdirect throughout this movie, you know, so who's to say Joni wasn't misdirecting the shit out of the entire situation, just trying to empathize and make her feel better.
Well, and that's the thing, maybe
she was wavering the whole time.
I always interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was gonna say, well, maybe Joni was like really upset. Yeah, maybe Joni was really upset because she lost her son. Right? She lost her son, who was her chance at being Payman's mom, kind of thing. And maybe that's why she goes to the grief counseling thing, not just because she lost her son, but because she lost her chance to be Payman's mom.
Well, she lost her son and her grandson too. So maybe those are her two possible vessels for him, and then.
I love the fact that we can like consider this shit. Like,
I'm more lost than I was an hour ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're talking about it for an hour. We're making more questions.
It's funny when you open up a door to another room with two more doors, and you're just like, shit, man, I'm not getting anywhere here.
People in the comments are saying Joni was full of shit. She never had kids. She was.
That seems like the easier pill to swallow. Is that she? Because as soon as Toni Collette's getting to the point where she's like, okay, yeah, whatever, and rolling up the window, she's like, I lost my husband and my son, or my son and my granddaughter. Like,
yeah, she just threw it out there, and she's like,
we're
on the same level. Like, come on.
Exactly. I see what you're seeing now. Like,
all right. Well, are there any? What are some of the other questions that you guys came up with? We're burning through them all. I know we've talked for a while, so.
See, so Joni had to like. How would Joni know that Toni Collette went to that? I don't know whatever that equivalent of AA is before, because that was her second time going to that grief.
Well, and she saw her the first time, so yeah, that's a good question. I mean,
was she following her the whole time, you think?
I would be under the assumption that the cult is kind of keeping a watchful eye on that house.
Yeah, surveillance.
She's leaving, and then I think that was one of those explanations they just decided not to give, and you kind of come up with your own explanation for how they followed.
I didn't.
I guess, but
they have a network of eyes. Those eyes are everywhere. They're screaming from across the street at all the kids.
We got a specific question from Kevin Ketchy. Which scene messed with you guys the most? I would say I think the decapitation. The fact that an entire theater just went, whoa! Like, we don't get that enough in theaters anymore. Like that big group surprise experience. Because again, like someone alluded to, the whole trailer was a misdirect. I think it was Jason. Yeah, the whole trailer was a giant misdirect. And when you got into the movie 25 minutes in, all of a sudden everything from the trailer's out and you're done. And it's like, what? I still have like over an hour left. What's going to happen now? Like there's not enough movies that do that kind of thing. Anyway, let's get back to the spoilery things. I mean, there was so much to talk to. Now, let me ask you guys, when you saw it, did you deal with any laughter? Because I've actually seen a lot of people saying that when Toni Collette floated up into the treehouse, one of the more disturbing images to me, our theater, no laughs.
I didn't
that I heard.
Laughs the entire movie.
No? Okay, yeah. See, that's the thing. There were apparently a lot of theaters that had a lot of laughs going on when the body was floating and when this and that happened. I'm like, that would have bummed me the fuck out if that had happened in my theater.
I would imagine those were from a lot of people who had
this goes towards someone's theater etiquette talk.
Coach Grant was fucking glorious about that.
Time for a sequel.
No, I think that the horror hype machine is to blame maybe for some of those reactions about people thinking it was going to be so scary and so much more of a visceral, I guess, visual experience than it actually was. Because this was more so for me a family drama with horror elements sprinkled throughout, as opposed to a full-on horror movie. It was very A24 in that degree.
You took the words right out of my mouth, man. I said the same thing in my review, and they gotta chill the fuck out with the horror marketing. Every single underground horror movie that comes out is like the scariest movie of the past 5 years, the new Exorcist, and everybody gets so excited because, like, I don't know about you guys, I never get scared in a movie. I might get a little uneasy, just like Jason was saying. Man. We're so desensitized, and it's like I'm like the fucking Hulk, walking around in the wilderness trying to find that one movie that will genuinely scare me, and I always believe the hype. This is going to be the one. Yeah, exactly. So when I'm sitting in Hereditary, the same thing. I'm like, this is kind of like a family drama with horror elements. So yeah, I think that whenever you get the new age, not to be that guy, but like the new horror generation that wants jump scares, they want found footage, and you get them into a movie like Hereditary. When they get to the 45-minute mark and they're still not scared, I think they check out, and everything that's supposed to be serious is suddenly comedic to them just because they don't care anymore. If they haven't walked out already, the bang in the head on the fucking
That's
wall.
what I had. I had laughing during that. I was just like, really?
Yeah, dude, it wasn't even the wall; it was the fucking ceiling. That's how unnerving that shit is. Like, I loved that, and while they held on it for a long time, so I can see why some people laughed, but it was really disturbing because they had to speed it up so much to match. I think, to me, it was the sound that was more disturbing than the imagery, and they had to speed up the imagery. So the imagery looked a little bit on the fake side to me, but still, the disturbing fact that my mind was like, oh shit, she's on the ceiling just going, just literally trying to kill her son. I'm like, that's fucking horrific.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah, and those scenes were few and far between, though, in the movie, obviously. And we have a generation that was raised on Saw and torture porn and graphic craziness,
Dude, the director of this, again, this was his first movie, right?
Writer-director.
Unbelievable, and just like on the level of James Wan with his first attempt out the gate.
He's done lots of shorts and documentaries and stuff, but this was his first feature.
What were you going to say, though, Cody?
Well, this is one of those movies that just shows you the disconnect with the generation, because like you got a movie, it's we've had this before where critics and quote unquote old school horror fans are loving it and eating it up, and then you get the cinema score and it's a D+ because everybody that rushes out because they see the trailer, scariest movie ever, they go in.
Ridiculous thing.
Yeah, but I get it though. I mean, I get why. That's one of the reasons why I don't watch too many trailers for movies like this, because I don't want to walk in with the wrong expectations. But the only expectation that I had walking in wrong was that I was going to be scared. But if you watch a trailer for, like It Comes at Night, that's a more perfect example. You watch the trailer, you look at the title, you put the pieces together, you see the movie is the opposite of what you walk in.
Yeah, you mistakenly think something's going to come at night.
Nothing ever comes. I still liked it, but I mean, it was very...
No, what? Shut up.
Yeah, I like
that. Get out of
movie.
Here. You blow A24 like it's a fucking $2.
I do. I got the A24 dong, dude. I love pretty much everything that those guys do, whether it's like
A24 comes at
Green
night.
Room or
A24 does come in Fago's mouth all the time.
Exactly.
Terrible.
I could see why a lot of people that aren't starving for some new different directions or starving for something that's not the typical studio horror film.
Well, we're getting this.
Walk into this. would walk into this and go, this is not what I want. And like my girlfriend works, she's a manager at our local theater. She said she's had so many people walk out of Hereditary wanting refunds. And I'm like,
really?
I get it. Yeah. I get it. I cannot think of a single person that I know in my personal life, aside from like my fellow film pundits, that would enjoy this movie. Like, it's not a knock on the movie. It's just because I know that it's such a patient watch and it's such a slow burn. And there's so many questions that I know that people who aren't like real, like, you know, knee deep in film are going to look at this and they're going to go, this is boring, or this is not going anywhere, or this is slow, or, you know, that didn't make any sense. And I could just, those quick immediate reactions are going to be the stronger reactions versus kind of like we're doing. We're discussing it. We're marinating in it for a couple of days before we even do our review. Like, I could see people in our circles really liking it or loving it, and then everybody that's kind of the typical general movie going audience that, you know, can't wait for Avengers would hate
it. Sorry, go ahead, CP. I have a tag up on what Cody just said.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like, if anything, whether it be It Follows, The Babadook, this is giving me hope that independent horror might save pseudo mainstream horror at least.
Yeah.
But it kind of counters what Cody's saying that people don't want it. But, you know, it's good to have stuff that isn't jump scares all the time. Like,
oh yeah,
we need the stuff that breathes a bit.
Yeah, there is something to mood and just unsettling feeling as opposed to just like bang, boom, boom, whatever. And there was a couple scenes of that in this, obviously. But it was a nice myriad of many things.
This struck a balance that I think other movies have been trying to do. Like, I hated The Witch. I liked the last 5 minutes of The Witch.
I love The Witch.
I did. I was like, the last 5 minutes, I was like, oh shit, the goat's the devil. Fuck yeah. All right, cool. Why did I waste an hour and a half waiting for what could have been an outstanding 10-minute short film?
You were telling me that you couldn't even understand them throughout most of the movie, though, because they were
I didn't. It was bullshit. Like, but here's the thing. But I did like Black Coat's Daughter, mainly because Andrew actually explained it after the fact, and I was like, oh shit, that was a really good movie. Now, Hereditary has like gone that one extra step where it's like, now it's an artsy movie that has that punch ending where it could almost be considered just a family drama, but it's scary and unnerving. The fact that they can make a whole audience get unnerved with, like, that is fucking, that's genius. That is really, really good. And then it kind of was like, okay, A24. All right. I liked Green Room. I hated a lot of the other things you did, but I really enjoyed this one too. So
they're just buying these properties and pumping them out. They're not producing.
Yeah, they're not developing.
No, I know. Yeah. But still, there has to be, you know, people that acquire. You know, they have acquisitions people, and they have tastes, and they have a particular thing that they're like, this isn't an A24 movie. You know, I'm sure that has been said before. So I like that they're evolving their tastes, because It Comes at Night was one of the most disappointing fucking things I've seen, because I was like, oh, you call it Comes at Night, and then nothing fucking comes at night.
Well,
go
and
fuck yourself.
That was another one with a lot of hype behind it too. And I mean, you know, back to the horror hype machine, you know, whether it was It Follows that I was very disappointed with, The Witch I thought was good, but not great. I didn't like Babadook.
It Follows was missing an entire.
Anytime there's momentum like this behind a movie, you have to.
It's a separate discussion.
Cody's right, man. Where it's like,
apparently,
you know, watch all of these different, you know. Here's another teaser. Here's more about it here. I mean, go in with an open mind and hopefully without all of those expectations, because the burden of expectation sucks a lot of the time with a movie.
It does, man. I've had plenty of movies that were either ruined because the trailer showed all the good shit, or because I had my expectations in the wrong side of the fucking room. And even though the movie was great, what I was expecting wasn't met. So it was,
That's what I'm worried about with this new Shane Black Predator, man. I was like, Shane Black is working with Fred Decker on a fucking Predator movie. This is going to be incredible. And then that first trailer, I was like, this looks just.
Did you watch the second trailer?
No, we're gonna do that when we're done. We're gonna react to it when we're done here.
Dude, okay, you'll change your tune. You'll change your tune.
And I did. I was watching the NBA finals, like I said, and I was like, wow, this looks a lot.
I hate that every fucking thumbnail's like, look at this mega predator. I'm like, the fuck you! I haven't seen the trailer yet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's funny. But that goes, what you're rattling off all these A24 films, that totally goes into what I was saying about it being hit or miss, because everyone, I was like, loved it, hated it, loved it, hated it. And Brian Lomax, he's got kind of me and him have very, we line up perfectly sometimes, and then we're on opposite ends of the earth other times. But as far as It Comes at Night, we were kind of like the sticks in the mud, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I think CeePee was a big fan of it.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you never seen it? Okay. Well,
yeah, and you guys said the ending sucked. So I was like,
yeah. Lee was the one then who was all for it. I think it was like his #1 movie for 2 weeks. Yeah, but we
he doesn't shuffle his best stuff around regularly.
Brian explains it perfectly. He's like, It Comes at Night is one of the most brilliantly directed and acted and written and gorgeously cinematography and well-paced movies that I fucking hated watching, and I'll never watch it again.
All right, I like the ending to that.
Yeah, so yeah, that was a movie where I was we're not talking about It Comes at Night, but a lot of the pacing and the waiting for something to happen, that kind of bled into this, but it was much more satisfying. I feel like with Heredity, like Jason was saying, I think there was a studio head tapping on the shoulder, like, explain that a little bit more, please. And, put something in.
I think they did over-explain at the end. I think they didn't need to do quite that much. I think it was pretty clear, but it didn't ruin it for me. It was just like, oh, okay, well, this is the LCD part of the film, the lowest common denominator portion. They have to explain it to a lot of people.
They spoon fed.
Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is they made such a heady film that by that point, those dumb people, those dumb people are like so pissed off that they're like, "Well, fuck you! I ain't gonna like it now just because you did that." I don't know why they went
I don't know why they have that accent.
Look, I'm from Arizona. I'm allowed to put that accent on anyone.
Sex offender and stupid. It always goes southern. I don't know.
That's true. Actually,
Bird in mouth, and this movie's too smart for me.
Fuego did a sex offender in a comedy sketch we did, and it ended up being southern just because.
Of course. Beaver balls.
Beaver balls.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's see. Are there any? Are we? I don't know that he's going to pop on. We already got Jason. Yeah, I guess we should hit some of these comments. So, do you guys have any final thoughts while I go back and hit on some of these comments now?
I mean, I kind of opened up my review with it, but I think this is a movie that no matter how many reviews you watch, how many negatives and positives, it's a movie that if you're a horror fan, you should watch it, because everybody's going to get something different out of it. No one's going to line up 100% with this one.
If you really said that, Cody, I'm just going to take your video and make that the way I like it, and just here's how I like it.
We have a couple comments here. Rubber Soul Rob, who's an amazing viewer of ours, who actually just created a Fans of the Horror Show Facebook group. He said, at least they aren't kidsing, Cecil. And I should put that into context. So we were basically going back and forth, and I was trying to say I'm just kidding, and I said I'm just kidsing instead. And then I was like, of course that means I'm going and peeking out on kids at the park and deciding which ones I want. And so now kidsing is a term. Yeah. So if you know any pedophiles, just say that guy over there, he's really creepy. He looks like he's kidsing.
Just like Danzig docking on the last Crossing the Stream.
Okay,
apparently turned into a thing.
While you're searching for another question, that actually reminds me of a story. Whenever I started working at my last job, which was construction materials testing, I was doing a concrete testing, and they gave me this big white van as my company vehicle. And my first concrete pour by myself was at 3 a.m. behind a school. And I was they told me where I was going. I was like, I was waiting for them to like laugh, and I was like, "You're sending me in a fucking white van with no decals behind a school at 3 a.m." I was like, "I'm gonna get fucking arrested and be in prison, and I'm gonna be a sex offender the rest of my life because you assholes."
I can only hope you got like a ball cap or two and just laid them on the ground next to where you were pouring concrete.
I wore a hoodie and everything. It was great.
Yeah.
That's some balloons, candy, all that shit.
At one point, you pick it up and throw it into the concrete. All right. Still looking for comments. CeePee, anything else from you here?
No.
Everyone's just commenting on what we're saying, quite frankly.
I'm more lost.
Guys, ask direct questions here so I can ask everyone. You're more lost than you were to begin with.
So the one thing I'll defend about this movie is you could not be with it, you can love it, you can hate it, but technically speaking, it's an incredibly made movie.
Yes.
that's all I'll say.
I 100% agree with you.
So
I mean, there were some things. Let me ask you guys this, because we talked about this during our spoiler review. That moment when there was the shot of the kid waking up after having been, after having fucked his face up in his own classroom, he wakes up and he's got the nose thing
he's
on.
Chinatowning it.
Bed, right? And he's just the lower half of the frame. The upper half of the frame is the back of his room. And then you see, if you look, and I'm telling you, half my theater did not see her, but she is up in the corner, Spider-Man up like this in the back of the corner before they cut to the close-up angle. Yeah, they cut to the close-up angle, and then you see her skitter away behind him. Right before that, Cody, that wide angle, she's up there in the fucking corner. And we even mentioned it in the review. You literally heard me in the theater go, oh my God, right when they cut to that, because I saw it right away. And then everyone else eventually started to make noise, like, because I saw it right away. And then they cut to the other angle where she skitters away, and that got a big response. Everyone was like, oh, and I'm like, motherfucker, she was there right before that. You didn't even see it. I love that kind of filmmaking. That is so amazing, and it's not done enough.
It's going to enhance the rewatchability factor, obviously, is those little bits that maybe you didn't notice in the background.
Wait, so Cody, you didn't see that?
No. That was before we saw it. Yeah, I don't remember seeing that. The only thing the first thing that sounds familiar is whenever it's like in that dream state and she kind of float spider crawls out of the room. As before she starts going nuts and trying to kill him. But any kind of reflection shit, no, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, when she float spider crawls, right before that, the shot immediately before that is him in the lower frame sitting up in his bed, and she's literally in the corner just completely motionless, and it's very dark. You can only kind of see her outline, but she's fucking there. And then when they cut to the close-up and she skitters away, it's like, I was like, oh, you guys are just catching on. I saw that shit a minute ago. I love that. I love that. I felt like I was in on a secret.
You asshole.
That's great filmmaking. Sorry, go ahead, CeePee.
But yeah, the cinematography is really good. See, I thought you were going to talk about this scene where she goes face to face with the sun, and we track with her head, and it's just such a tight shot where it's this tiny little movement, but you're just so close to them where it's just like, can we get a medium shot, please? Can we just back this up a little bit? That was just one thing. That's what I thought you were.
I like that we're an hour plus in, and someone's like, "Holy shit! I can see an HD Cecil and Fuego now." Great, awesome, perfect timing. And Jason's in the comments now. He's wherever he's at. He's at a family function. Going, I still want to talk about this.
I still love so many of the dream sequences, man. Especially where he thinks he sees the sister in the corner, and then
how did you like that when her head rolled off and it was the ball?
It was a ball. Yeah,
I will give this movie credit that I usually get genuinely either annoyed or full blown pissed off whenever they overuse dream sequences, especially like It Comes at Night. I keep going back to it, but every horror scene in that movie is revealed to be a dream sequence. When you get to this one, it's so seamless when it goes to dream and out of dream that it totally had me. Those scenes where she had her head falls and it's the ball, and the other dream sequences, it's woven into the movie so tightly that it works. Because sometimes, like I said, it's a pet peeve of mine when you have these great scenes and then it's like, oh, they're just dreaming, and you're like, oh well, that scene has no effect.
It was all a dream. Yeah.
Cody, do you ever get vocal when you're watching a horror movie, or are you just I'm just picturing you when you saw that scene, and maybe you're just and that might be about it for you.
I'm not very vocal. No, I'm vocal if it's a comedy and it's a genuine laugh. If it's an action movie, if somebody gets Death Wish, whenever the fucking car slammed and the dude's brains exploded.
Is that good? We haven't seen that yet. Is that good? Well, I know it's directed by Eli Roth, obviously a huge horror director.
I feel like I'm one of 3 people in the world that love it, but I loved it. Me and my dad had a blast with it. I think that genre of just old school revenge thriller, bloody action movie is so few and far between that people don't know how to accept it nowadays. But I thought it was a blast. But I'll get audible with shit oh fuck, that was cool. But horror movies, I'm usually quiet because, especially after A Quiet Place, I try not to be the asshole that's over emoting and oh my god, or ooh, everybody that does that to me is just kind of shut up, so.
And we totally.
I couldn't help it. I had to give the when the head came off in this. I literally was like, oh, Like,
Yeah,
and I
that
never
moment-
really do that. I couldn't help it, man.
In my theater, it was all gasps. Like whenever it would, doom, everybody's like, oh!
Yeah.
And then it was just.
I
dead
probably would have
man.
made everyone laugh then.
The fucking air in the room just stopped, and everybody was
Yeah,
waiting.
it just
like,
gets sucked out.
Did that really just happen? Like,
Did you? What was the reaction like when it just unceremoniously cut back to the head crawling with ants in the middle of the fucking?
I wasn't expecting it because it felt like a movie that wasn't going to go there. It felt like there was so much that they were purposefully not showing you, and then all of a sudden they're like, ah, and they go back. You know, it was pretty gnarly.
And how disturbing! I got to be honest, like when it was revealed that it was Charlie's head on the fucking idol at the end, I was like, that's fucked up imagery, man. Like that is just messed up. They didn't even cut to a close up to emphasize it. You had to like be paying attention to notice it, and it's like, God, that level of horror is incredible to me.
And it being a recreation of the image we saw in the book too. That's where I was like, oh.
Yeah, right. they had to get the new guy, the probie, to come in and like wipe off all the ants and shit. Like, just clean up that fucking head.
The probie. Yeah, you know, if people are asking where does this rank, you know, in the pantheon of horror movies you've seen, honestly, I'm gonna say this is one of the best ones I've seen in the past 5 years or so. I loved it. I also really loved A Quiet Place though. So this year is fucking knocking horror out of the park, in my opinion.
Well, A Quiet Place, Annihilation, this one.
Annihilation was amazing too.
That was my top 3.
Yeah,
right
there's
there.
been some good shit so far, man. I mean,
I hated the ending of Annihilation. I'm not a big fan of the. I forgive me if I don't like a rainbow.
I will not forgive you.
Suit like what is it?
You're talking about how you don't want
a rainbow dominator suit. Like I don't. That's not scary. That's not a. Like,
you're saying you don't want a movie to spoon feed you.
It's like, okay, this guy looks like he's gonna try and give me a good time on a Saturday night. I'm not really. You know, I'm not that, but you know, it looks like someone might be. He's, you know,
Natalie Portman was.
Yeah, well, for real. And she almost got squished up against the door by his domineering.
That just made me want to read the other 2 books in the trilogy, though, because it's a trilogy called the Southern Reach trilogy, and you know, I don't know. I thought it was.
Are they all about rainbow dominators?
Paper movie.
You gonna say Cody? Sorry.
You were talking about ranking. As far as me so far, I would put A Quiet Place above this, but I would put Annihilation behind it. I wasn't as big on Annihilation as everybody else. That's one of those victim of hype things. I've had everybody and their mother tell me it's like top 2, top 3, and I finally watched it at home, and I loved the dude's last movie, Ex Machina. When I was watching this, there was for whatever reason I was expecting something different. Everybody was like, "Oh, it gets horror really good," in this one section, and they're talking about that one scene with the fucking bear. And that's it. And I was expecting a horror movie, like it just going to go off the rails at some point. And it was very cerebral, and it was kind of one of those movies too where I have a lot of questions that in that movie in particular I wasn't as interested in answering them as I was in this one. So this is like sandwiched in the middle as far as my ranking.
Yeah, I'd say Annihilation was hardcore sci-fi at the end of the day. It was not.
It's interesting you like Quiet Place more. I was struggling to decide which one I liked more, but these are the Quiet Place and this are definitely my top 2 of the year. Yeah. Although that new Puppet Master, that might be my number 3. If you guys have you guys seen the new Puppet Master yet?
I've only seen the original. I reviewed it for a patron request, and it was painful for me, so I haven't watched any of the others.
Oh, fair enough. Well, the new one, honestly, I don't know if you're a fan of gore for gore's sake, like I am. I loved the new Puppet Master movie. We got it a bit of an ill-gotten way, but it's so good, and it's so but it's so much fun. It's definitely like that, and this. And A Quiet Place might be my top 3 right now for the year. It's crazy.
Well, I'm curious now. You're talking about gore for gore's sake. So where does Terrifier rank for you?
Oh my God! Okay, I can't say because it's currently on a poll on our Patreon. We recorded the review, and it's one of the first. We just launched our Patreon last week, and it's one of the ones that our pollers requested. So if they win, we'll release it on Patreon. If not, we'll release it on the regular channel. But I'll just say this. I was so happy to see a return to the gore form in Terrifier. It was fucking awesome to me.
Gotcha.
Fuego might not have liked it as much as me, but I was a big fan of Art the Clown. And it's not only that, but Art is going to be at Mad Monster in July, so I'm going to be able to interview him. and get its signature on my Coexist shirt. Oh, we have another guest. Cody, who's this?
Say hello. This is Riley.
Hi, Riley.
What's up?
Yeah. Say hi, Riley.
Hi, Riley. Hi.
Yeah, if I'm gonna rank,
It's like, what? I hear voices.
Headphones in before. She's like,
It's like there's audio.
not in your
that's
head.
not
I promise you.
Voices in my head.
Hi.
Kiss.
Oh, mwah. What a sweetheart.
Speaking of Hereditary,
Yeah.
Speaking of Hereditary, exactly.
So
So Cody, you wait. Okay, now you're bringing the kids into the horror thing. Didn't am I mistaken, or didn't you just say you took someone to a horror movie recently? That a younger child.
I took my 7-year-old to see Hereditary.
Yes, that's what I thought.
hardcore.
Yep, I took
Well,
her to see Hereditary, and my son kind of tags along for the Marvel movies and the action movies, and Bella's kind of like my horror clay. Like whenever she walks out, it doesn't matter what they're doing in their room. If I'm watching, like when I was reviewing Friday the 13th, I was watching Friday the 13th constantly. Like I would watch them 2 or 3 times before I review them, and she'd walk out and see Jason, and she would just plop down on the couch and just chill for the rest of the movie.
It's like tractor beam.
Exactly.
Nice.
By the way, I really enjoyed your review series on those. It was always fun to see how you were going to say that no one else showed up for the review.
Yep, and then they got slaughtered for fun with me.
No, that was a great series. I'm trying to figure out how because we're going to have to review the Halloween series leading up to the movie.
Same here.
So I'm trying to decide how we're going to do it, and I'm
And
like,
there's
okay, I'm going to
zombies.
try and copy how Cody did it, but at the same time, I might copy how Cody.
Well, at least
We'll see.
you're giving the proclamation now.
No, I'm talking about more on the green screen kind of thing, but we'll
Mhm.
see. I don't know. It just seems like you can have a little fun with that, and is obviously what I'm all about. Otherwise, by the way, I need to get back to my Startling story time because I got 3 episodes in on the Hellheart. But I don't know if you guys watched that. The first one, when there was an appearance by the Cenobites. It's I'm basically reading the Hellbound Heart, which was what Hellraiser was based on. And when the Cenobites first appear, I did a little bit of pitches on the voices. A lot of fun to do that kind of stuff. But, anyway, I don't even know how I got on that tangent. So what else are we talking about regarding Hereditary? Is there any final thoughts we want to give? There's some questions in the field here, but they're not all about Hereditary. So
The Dumb and Dumber quote, hilarious. Tractor beam, sucked me right in.
Me personally, I think I've said pretty much all I can say about Hereditary.
Yeah.
There's a ton of questions that are not going to be answered for me, or I'm not going to land on my version of the answer until I watch it at least 1 or 2 more times. And there's probably going to be some questions that, like Jason said, we'll argue about until the end of fucking time. So I'm cool with ending on that point. If we want to just kind of go over to general questions, but we can go over to CeePee and have some more burning questions.
yeah, CeePee, do you have anything else on Hereditary? No.
I have less. I have less than I did before.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what.
I only contend that I still think A Quiet Place is a better movie. It was so much more unique of an approach. This was more a Frankenstein construction of many horror films that I've seen. I dug the 70s satanic cinema slow burn vibe, and I thought it was damn good. I still like A Quiet Place better though.
So back to the questions then. Someone asked what we thought of Terrifier. I obviously gave my opinion. Cody, CeePee, have you guys both seen Terrifier?
Nope.
I still need to do a review for it. It's a movie I'm not in a rush to review necessarily, but I will say that there's some aspects of the movie that feels like it gets a bit exploitative for my taste, but as far as just an old school gore fest slasher with a really fucked up villain, it was a nice throwback for me. And it's a villain that I feel like has got enough buzz in the horror community now that it's not the last we're going to see of him.
His fucking teeth alone are enough to make him iconic status. The fact that you have dark red, sort of almost blood-colored teeth on a completely white-faced clown that has those massive, crazy cheekbone, prosthetics and shit.
On the nose, too.
Yeah, and the nose, the kinked witch nose, It's just such an unnerving visage. I'm happily going to have him sign the Coexist shirt under the clown hand. He's such a good entry into the pantheon of scare clowns.
I still contend that John Watts, the director of Spider-Man Homecoming, I think his movie Clown is a better movie you know.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Terrifier is definitely
The one that Eli
gorier
Roth
and-
produced.
Yeah.
I fucking hated Clown.
Really?
I feel like I'm the only one because everybody loved it so much, but that movie just got so silly to me. And then we got to the third act without spoiling it. Whenever the clown's motivations are coming out about, you know, like, bring me one more child, I'm like, motherfucker, you can get your own child in 5 seconds. Why do you have to have her do it? Like, I don't know. That movie didn't work for me at all.
He was
It actually
made
made me
play
nervous.
place or whatever, right?
Yeah, it made me nervous as fuck for Spider-Man: Homecoming. I'll say that. So,
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, let's see. We had another one. Here we go. Predict how you guys think the Blumhouse Halloween plot will go.
Okay.
What does that have to
I
do with
think
Hereditary.
if I had to guess, I don't know because it's going to be. I'm not sure if he's actually on a vengeance for Laurie or if he just goes back to Haddonfield and she's going to try to take him down and he just happens to be there. So, but nonetheless, it's pretty easy from the trailer. The fucking dude with the mask has some reason that he wants to set Michael off. Michael gets set off, gets either broken out or escapes from this bus, and then goes back to Haddonfield and starts slaying motherfuckers. And Jamie Lee Curtis is waiting for him in Sarah Connor mode. I mean, and since they're already talking about a sequel, this is the thing that we can talk about too. I have a lot of people saying that this should be a one and done. They should just wrap up the story beautifully and have this, you know, grand ending. But my opinion of it is don't, because they're obviously going to make a sequel to it. There's no fucking way this movie's not going to get a sequel. I mean, there's no way. It's going to be like the It of last year. It's going to make hundreds of fucking millions of dollars.
No, it's not going to be that big.
Yeah, sure. But it's going to be.
I'll call it right now, bro. It's not going to make
personally-
anywhere near It money.
So
I just personally don't think it's going
I agree with that.
It might not make it quite, but it's going to be that movie of this year to me. It's going to be that horror movie that all of a sudden all the fucking classic horror movie fans are going to come out and make that movie fucking big. But studio is going to look at it and they're going to say, make another one now. Start. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, well, I think they may do another one, but I think Jamie Lee is one and done, dude. I really do.
I'm with you. I think this movie is her swan song. I think this is going to be the redemption arc for Jamie Lee because of what they did in Resurrection. But I think they'd be fucking retarded to kill Michael or to try to kill Michael, because then you're going to run into the H2O resurrection problem. We had this awesome ending that works for a closure of the series that we're not going to close. Now we have to write our way out of it. And then the first 5 minutes of Halloween 2 or whatever they decide to call it, you're going to go, oh, fuck you. What? That doesn't make any sense. But they're, you know, just for the sake of being realistic, they don't need to even bother trying to kill Michael Myers in this movie. So that's my piece.
How are they going to give Jamie Lee a proper swan song without killing her at the end?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
she's probably going to kick the shit out of him. She's going to save her family and get her family out of there and sacrifice herself. But it's going to be something that makes sense. It's not going to be like the beginning of Resurrection where it's going to be one of the reasons why people shit on that movie so much.
Now, do you guys think it's a fake out, or do you think they're actually reneging on the Michael and Laurie brother sister?
I think actually.
And now I know a lot of people say that, and I know they say it's because John Carpenter went back and he hated the fact that he made him a brother and sister of Halloween 2, blah, 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 blah. I think that this is just something that Laurie told her daughter, no, that's bullshit. He's not my brother. Ooh. But in actuality, he is. And he's coming after her. And that's going to make for a dramatic scene later in the movie where she has to come clean to the daughter. Okay, he's coming after me because he's my brother.
Empire Strikes Back moment.
Yeah.
Here's my issue with that, though. That would be an interesting take. And I wouldn't even say that John Carpenter not liking it would be the exact reason. But for me, it just feels like this movie would be pointless if they were going to do that, because it feels like the reason they're doing this, aside from getting it back on track and giving Laurie a proper end, is to do something different. And if we go back to the whole he just wants to kill his family thing, then we're just retreading familiar ground and we're right back at square one with this alternate timeline that goes the same fucking place as the other 8 timelines. So I get what you're saying, because then, you know, but me personally, I've never been a big fan of the whole brother-sister angle. I like Michael in the first movie where he's just this motiveless, you know, force of nature, force of evil, and he just kills because he kills.
So you feel like he's not going to... I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like that's enough. I feel like that's the Michael that they're trying to get back to, is just this motiveless force of evil that is unstoppable. You know, the blackest eyes and all that kind of stuff. I feel like they've beaten the whole family thing to death with this version of Michael and the zombie version of Michael. Me personally, unless they pull that scene off very well, you're going to hear that audible groan that you were talking about. That you're going to hear me be audible in the theater when they say, "Da, da, da, Darth Vader's your father." I'm going to be like, "Oh, fuck."
Laurie, I am your brother.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if they do get rid of it, then it's easier for them to kill Laurie by the end and have him continue on without any sort of ties that are familial. That's fine and dandy, but I don't know. I don't know why it's such a big deal that they're brother and sister. I think that makes sense. He fucking the whole thing is he killed his sister to start. He's obsessed with killing his sister, his family member. Why is that such a bad thing? Like it started familial and so people are like, oh no, we like Halloween because he is a random killer and he's funny and stuff. And I will say I do like that this looks like we're getting back to funny Michael because he's dropping the teeth, haunting her, and then he's there's the ghost sitting in the thing. Like I like funny, smart Michael over just random killing machine Michael.
He's a more creative killer compared to.
So I like that we're hopefully getting back to that, but I also gotta say that there's more to invest when there's a familial connection, in my opinion.
Well,
I just want to say
that. Go ahead, CeePee. Go ahead.
For the record, and you guys were talking about how well this needs to be. It doesn't need to do too well to be the best in the series. The highest grossing Halloween in the franchise is 2007's with 58 million. That's total.
Yeah.
So I would hope it would do that. I would hope it does that opening weekend at least 58 million.
No, I disagree.
Really?
I think it'll make 40, maybe 50 in opening weekend at the most.
I'm not with you on this one, dude. This movie,
no.
especially coming
out in October. Look, I get horror fans love it.
Quiet Place is like 120.
There are not that many of us. Like there's
dude. Quiet Place is over
audiences. There's no way it makes. I don't like in the wildest of imaginations. I would imagine it makes 60. In the wildest of predictions.
This is what you got to think about, though. Like, think about all of the hype and the insanity and the fucking uproar that there's been just people wanting the damn trailer to be released.
On Killer Flicks.
No. Fair point. But also on YouTube and everything. It's like, dude, even when I drop my upgrade review, like, I'm talking about, like, hundreds of comments. At least half of them said, did they show the Halloween trailer? So, I mean, there's you got that, extrapolate that to when the movie comes out. Plus, Michael and Halloween is a familiar franchise, so you're going to get all the people that aren't necessarily horror diehards. Oh shit, a new Halloween movie's coming out. Plus, they're releasing it in October near Halloween, and that's what people have horror fever. And now that we've had It last year, we're having A Quiet Place, we're having Hereditary. Like, horror is becoming more mainstream than it was. It's kind of popular to be a horror fan again. Horror's not like this redheaded child of cinema anymore. So you extrapolate all those together. I'm not saying that, you might be absolutely right with it not necessarily reaching It. I think it's going to get close, but it's definitely going to smoke some fucking money for opening weekend. And it's going to, like CeePee said, A Quiet Place made like 150. This better get close to it. Otherwise,
the thing that's the perfect is the Blood is a household name for horror. Point.
Truth or Dare?
Shit that like gangbuster money. I mean, shit. I think the Truth or Dare, which was terrible, made like 30 opening weekend. So if you them with an franchise like this.
Like I said, man, you guys are overestimating big time here.
I think it's going to be around.
I'm not a fan, but I think 58 is pretty easy to accomplish on the opening weekend alone.
If it makes 58 the opening weekend and that's it, motherfuckers are getting fired. I will say that.
Are you kidding me? The movie's going to cost less than 10. There's no way that anyone would get fired if it made that
That's
amount.
What Blumhouse does.
There's no way. They specialize in mid to low horror movies. There's no way it's not going to make more. It's going to be profitable. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying it's not going to be profitable. I'm saying there's no way it reaches the levels of it. It was a rebirth of the reason that probably 80% of the fucking audience there are scared of clowns. Like that tapped into a whole nother thing than Halloween will tap into. Halloween's going to tap into the horror audience that know Michael Myers. It to all audience
It's not going to make
like
it
that's
money,
that's a big fucking
Whichever-friendly
difference. It's
bet
going to
we're
be a
not
huge difference. I go in its total domestic take. Halloween does not make more than 90 million.
Oh,
Ooh,
brother,
man.
what?
No way.
total.
No way.
What?
North America?
Nope. Disagree. Nope. No more.
Wow,
I'd be
you're-
so surprised if it
specialize
crossed
in-
100.
Man, prepare
Can
to
we
be
bet on
right.
Alright,
something?
well, I will say this: we've already kind of cemented this. The weekend after Halloween comes out, we're all four of us are getting
Fucking
back
A.
together.
That's fine.
And
That's fine. Hopefully, Lee will jump piss all over us like this movie was awesome.
I've seen it 17 times this weekend. Being responsible for 10 million of it.
It's like I'm the reason it made 200 million. I bought all those tickets.
Poor Lee, man, he's gonna get fucking divorced that weekend because he's gonna be.
I know.
He's gonna be at the theater nonstop doing videos. Halloween 2018 revisited the next week. Like,
All right, guys, live reaction on my 4th consecutive viewing. Here it goes.
I can only hope his wife's birthday is that weekend.
oh my god, don't do that to him. Do that to him. We love you, Lee. We love you.
Oh, we miss you,
Me
buddy.
too,
We miss you.
man.
We wish you were here for this
This is all
discussion.
hazing.
Honestly, I don't even
know.
know if he probably didn't even have time this week to see Hereditary, so I'm not surprised he didn't.
He
jump
did
on
see it. He did see it. He didn't. He's not doing a review yet because he had the same response that me and CeePee had about. I don't know what the fuck I think about this, but his last words were, "I liked it, didn't love it."
Interesting. Okay.
Well,
So
it is
I
a
think-
film that, I mean, after I got done, I turned over to our friend who runs the International Horror Sci-Fi Film Festival, and he's like, "What'd you think?" And I was like, I need to process a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and that was really the way that I felt about this movie. You have to ruminate about it. You have to give it some consideration. And I do think, like both you guys said, at least the second viewing, because I think that'll cement opinion a little bit better. So,
yeah, I mean, the Halloween trailer didn't reach anywhere near the numbers of the It trailer did. Guys, that alone is a comparison.
What's the view total?
Let's check. I mean, I don't know at the time.
It's been one day.
No, I know. I'm saying, but after one day, it had been seen by how many fucking millions and millions of people?
It broke records for the most views.
It was
in 24
unreal.
hours.
Let's check the
Cecil,
Halloween.
However,
let's set up a friendly bet.
Yes.
All right.
I'm down
And-
for this.
Yeah, October we'll figure something out where we're going to predict something, and the loser has.
All
to do
right, then
something on
I
somebody
will.
else's channel.
I'll stick by. I'll say it does not cross $100 million.
Total or the
The
opening?
opening weekend or total?
No, domestically.
Total?
Total domestically. It does not cross $100 million.
I still contend it's going to make close to that its opening weekend. I'd say
Oh my
75, maybe.
Okay,
80.
I would. You guys, please make that bet because I'll take the fuck out of that bet. There's no way it makes 100 opening week. You're insane.
I didn't say I won't say 100 opening weekend, but over 100 total. I would say that. That's
Yeah.
Quiet Place.
Well, let's be somewhere in the middle. What do you guys think it's going to make domestically?
Triple digits at least, or whatever.
Okay,
8,
well, triple digits at least. I mean, we're so
total. We're talking total.
total domestic.
180.
Cody,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I was about to say 175 before you said it, so I'll say
All right, so
170.
will you give me 125?
$1, Bob. $1.
Will you give me
Oh,
125?
well, the price is writing us. All right.
I'm rising a little bit.
Yeah, Cecil is saying
$1. $1.
Yeah. No, okay. No, I'll stick with you know what? No, I'll stick with what I said. I'll stick with 100 million. I don't think it makes 100 million domestic
99 million.
Domestic.
99,900,000
for its theatrical run.
Yeah. There's no way it doesn't. There's no way.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way too. I pray
How much
to
did a
God.
Quiet Place make?
Hang on. I pray
Yeah.
that you were wrong because if you are correct, there's no fucking way we're
We're
ever
fucked.
getting another Nightmare or Friday the 13th.
Right.
movie.
Right. The rest of us
Why
are
would you
fucked.
say that? That's so wrong.
No.
If
Dude,
it-
Friday
if
we
it-
made
if
it 68.
that
Dude,
was-
Halloween is going to have
They
cost
canceled.
maybe 10 million, and if you add the marketing budget, it'll cost maybe 20. If it makes 30, they'll make a sequel.
Cody
They
made a
canceled
really good
Friday the
point in one of his videos, though, dude, where you were saying that this is like kind of a gauging of the
Yes.
temperature for more slasher icons to
They
return.
canceled Friday the 13th because of a Ring sequel. They're not
No,
going to
they
have
canceled
any
Friday the
fucking
13th
qualms.
because it was directionless for years.
Well,
first it was
added
supposed
into
to be found footage, then it was supposed to not be found footage. The
No.
fucking studio couldn't figure out what the fuck they wanted to do.
Well,
That's
Halloween,
why it didn't come out.
Halloween experienced similar problems though with the Halloween Return script in the prison or whatever, where he was going to get executed.
Zombies, Halloween 3, and then there was Halloween 3D, and then there was Halloween Returns. Like I'm with you. Yes, I didn't want that version of Friday the 13th to begin with. It was fucked from the start. But I'm just saying that was the nail in the coffin. And if the prime candidate for the old school slasher genre doesn't kill it, they're not even going to bother with throwing in Freddy or fucking Jason for at least.
Dude,
another
I
6 to 7
disagree.
years.
I completely. If this makes over 60, they'll do another Freddy. They'll do another
Friday
Jason.
the 13th did 68 in 09, and that's probably worth 80 now, 80, 85.
That's true. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. But
And the Nightmare on Elm
that
Street
was 09. Horror
Yeah.
hadn't entered into the renaissance that it's in right now.
Dude, I hope
think
you're right. I
also-
really do.
Factor though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, yeah, I hope that regardless, I'd love to see another Nightmare on another Friday. But yeah, I don't know.
I would too, and I love that you guys would like to see another Nightmare, because that was a question in Killer Flicks. Was like, would anyone really want to see another Nightmare on Elm Street without Robert Englund? And I'm like, yes. So you're telling me that for the rest of existence, we should never see another Freddy movie? Like, I think the mythos of Freddy surpasses Robert Englund. Yes, Robert is Freddy, and no one will ever replace Robert Englund. But the Freddy mythos is so worth going back to try. Like, look, we found Robert Englund. Who's to say we won't find someone else that's going to kick fucking ass as Freddy?
Now I'm suddenly thinking of Cody's funny shirt that he has out right now.
Can't root for his fucking kids. But yeah, if he, but yeah, I'm with you, dude. I'm like the self-proclaimed Nightmare fanatic, and there's two bitter pills that Nightmare fans refuse to swallow. One of them is that we've already found an awesome person to play Freddy, but he was with a shitty director and a shitty writer, so we didn't get to see what he could fully do, and he still pulled off some pretty damn good shit despite that. The second bitter pill is, yes, Robert Englund is the fucking god as far as Nightmare on Elm Street, but Robert Englund is both the best version of Freddy and the worst version of Freddy that we've ever seen.
Good call.
True, dude. Yeah.
I mean, if you're really gonna fucking get down to it, half of what Robert Englund did was brilliant. The other half, whether it be his fault or his director and writer's fault, is fucking garbage.
The back half of the series sucks, dude. I mean, Dream Child and Freddy's Dead are both terrible films in my opinion.
Let me just say this, just real quick. If Skarsgård can do for Pennywise what he did, I think there's absolutely someone that can do the same for Freddy. Fucking
and everybody needs to stop looking at all the A-listers and like, let's get Matthew McConaughey to play Freddy. Let's get Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon was the big one.
Let's get Kevin Bacon's Tremors series on the tracks, man. That shit looked awesome. Don't fucking make him Freddy. Jesus.
I actually thought Jackie Earle Haley was brilliant casting, and I was really excited about that. When they first talked about it.
I don't like him, but
lower the tone a bit. Make it a little less fucking,
a little less child rapey.
Yeah, a little less serious. Let's all just calm down with that nonsense and try again.
What they need to do, they need to go out and find like Skarsgård's a good example because he's not exactly unknown, but he's close, or at least he was. You find somebody that's unknown or somewhat unknown that has a genuine fucking passion for the character, a passion for the franchise, somebody that when he's in the Freddy makeup, you're not going to see the actor, and get somebody that knows the fucking franchise to write it, and get somebody that's not a fucking music video director that's never directed a film before to direct it, and you're going to be fine.
Right. It's a hell of a point, Cecil, because without Pennywise in the original that movie's fucking terrible.
Oh, it's horrible.
I'm sorry.
Hey.
No, fuck you. It's terrible.
I hold that, and I have a soft place in my heart, especially for the kids stuff,
Exactly.
But
the second half, I will agree, is terrible without Pennywise. The first half is still a pretty good movie with or without Pennywise. Pennywise just makes it that good.
It is cliff notes of the story, but I mean, what else can you do with a Stephen King?
I did like the way the Losers Club came together a little bit better in the TV series than I did the movie. It happened more organic.
And some of the kids I liked better in the original series. I liked Ben better. I liked
Mike
That one
Hanlon
really
was done
was
better.
bad.
For
I
sure.
honestly
Yeah.
felt like they changed the nature of Eddie's character completely in the
Yeah.
new movie. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
he was more like Richie than.
And
like
I
the Eddie
liked
of the book,
I liked
so.
that because in the original series, Eddie was a pussy. So I liked
Totally.
the new
Well, which
Yeah.
he is in the novel. You know, he is a witness. He's status, but.
So, are there any actors that you guys could think of off the top of your head that might pull a good Freddy? I know
No,
that's
'cause I
like
want-
a huge sticking point for people right
It's
now.
tough to envision.
I want somebody that when I see their name, I go, who? That's
Yes.
what I want.
I agree. That's a good way to look at it. Because honestly, that while I knew who Bill Skarsgård was, it was only because he's the guy that was on that werewolf show for a few seasons.
The one on Netflix.
It's like, okay, maybe we'll see.
Only
You know,
some
like
iconic shots
if
with
I'm
the blood and
like
the smoke
if
and
I'm like
everything.
passingly familiar, but I'm like, okay, let's see what he does. That's fine with me. Like I'm okay with that. Look, my problem, no, not problem. My opinion on remakes, because everyone fucking shits on remake after remake. There's so many new properties that can be done. Why are we remaking? Well, people know properties and studios bank on that. And I personally would rather have a chance at another good entry in the Nightmare on Elm Street series than just fucking say, no, I never want to have another one because they always screw it up. Look, there's a possibility that we could get, Cody, you'll back me up on this. There's a possibility we could get a Friday the 13th remake that suddenly is the best fucking aspects of everything that came before it. Between the acting, the kills, the progression, the first fucking 20 minutes. Like, that came
like this right
from
now.
a remake. But that's what I'm
No, I'm with
saying.
you,
Like,
man.
I'd much rather have an opportunity at having another badass. I will take a shitty Freddy movie over never having another Freddy movie because that means that at least I had a chance of having a good Freddy movie.
Right.
I'm not required to watch that after the first time I watch it.
So you're telling me there's
Well,
a chance?
You're tapping into my standpoint on a lot of the common whining that I hear from movie fans. Like, oh, it ruined the originals. How? Don't watch that one.
It's not like
I'm
it
pretty
makes it
sure
away
they
from
didn't
you.
film it on the negatives of the original.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So it's you get that, or or the remake thing. Like, no, it's gonna destroy the original. You still have the fucking original on your shelf. Don't buy the new one. It's easy.
And
You know
how
what I mean?
often do people mistake the holy 80s remake trilogy of The Fly, The Thing,
The
and The
Thing.
Blob? And those were all, in my opinion, far better than the originals. So, I mean,
Dude, I've got shit on so many times because it seems like more times than not anymore, I prefer the remake to the original because I didn't grow up with them or for whatever reason. But like I picked the Friday the 13th remake, obviously, to the chagrin of some people, but I picked that one.
I saw that. Yeah.
I picked I'll take the Texas Chainsaw remake over the
I'm with you there.
original. I'll take the Evil Dead remake over the original.
Ooh, I actually will too.
Over the original,
but
not
over
the
2 or
sequels.
Army of Darkness,
Yeah,
but over the original, yes.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's people say there's no original ideas in Hollywood. No, the reason why studios go with sequels and remakes and reboots is because that's the shit that all of you that are bitching go and pay money to. When you get a movie like Hereditary, Upgrade, that's like a pretty original idea, everybody fucking scampers until Avengers 5 comes out. So I mean, it's one of those things where you're starting to see the change a little bit with Transformers, with there's another movie that was like supposed to be huge and it didn't, but people are starting to vote with their wallets a little bit more. Yeah, people are starting to vote with their wallets a little bit more. People are starting to kind of be a little bit more keen into the film community and what the buzz is. I mean, you're seeing that tide change slowly, but for the longest time, if it wasn't a $400 million movie that took every single time you turn on the TV, the trailer, it's the ad in front of every single YouTube movie or YouTube video, then that movie wasn't going to make a whole lot of money because it's one of those things where people go and see what they're told to go see.
It's funny you mentioned Transformers because that Bumblebee trailer looked like the best
Bumblebee!
Transformers movie that I've seen in like ages. It actually looked like it was going to more of a personal take,
No,
and
it
they
looks
actually
terrible
looked like
too.
robots. I mean, for God's sake, it looked like a Transformer.
I want to just shout out Music in the comments because he said something that I almost said when we were talking about Freddy. I actually agree with him. He says the guy who plays Joker on Gotham would make a good Krueger. And I actually think the guy who plays Joker on Gotham would make an outstanding Cletus Cassidy.
Everyone
in the
says
Venom
he
movie.
makes the show, which I still haven't
because he's
watched.
got the red-haired crazy. But I actually agree. I think he would make an outside. Like I was like he would actually make a really good Krueger. He's got that classic sort of craziness to him, playing the Joker. So I'm just
as long as Bailey Madison plays Nancy, that's all that really matters to me.
Who's
Love
that?
you, Lee.
You just gotta
Exactly.
Oh man, inside joke.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but,
I thought we'd say as long as Watermelon plays Nancy, if Jason.
yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, Freddy Krueger, like you're right on the right path bringing up the Joker, because Freddy Krueger is one of those characters that has to be handled with kid gloves like Joker is. You know, you gotta capture the heart of who Freddy is. Take your own interpretations here and there with both the look and the performance, but be careful. Don't go too far out of the fucking spectrum, or you'll have Jared Leto's Freddy.
Oh,
I mean, it's
Jared Leto's Freddy.
Yeah,
where it says like "I dream" across his forehead.
Yeah. So
some bullshit.
I liked Leto's Joker.
Fuck you! God,
I
you're decrediting yourself the further we go.
I liked aspects of him. I will say I didn't see enough of him to really have a complete stance. But as far as
he wasn't written well at all.
As far as the look, you couldn't be more on the fucking nose with the design of that Joker. I mean, like you might as well just say, "I'm the Joker," like all over. You know what I mean? It's and I
almost did
grill.
Yeah, I have a feeling too, because I did a video kind of ranting on it. They're supposed to be doing, along with the other 55 movies they've talked about, a Jared Leto standalone movie.
Yeah,
I'm willing to bet they're going to retcon a lot of that design. Whenever you see him again, I feel like he's going to be kind of scaled back some.
I hope so. Jesus. But what does that mean? That the Joker got tattoo surgery? Like,
I guess so. Hey.
Or it's a prequel before he got as many of those tattoos done. Like
they'll use the same mustache CGI to take out his tattoos.
I'm with Jeff Floyd here. Jeff Floyd says Doug Jones is Freddy. Why not?
I don't know.
Too tall? You think?
I don't know if he has enough personality.
Yeah, but he's got that. He's got that masterful physical performance that Robert Englund. There's no one that can do that Freddy walk like Robert, where he's like stepping, sort of sidestepping one foot.
Yeah, I don't want too big in Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy's got to be kind of small. But
really?
Anyway,
you think he's the Wolverine of fucking?
Well, he was. Look at the
horror icons.
Well, I mean, look at when he was fighting with Jason. He was a little sportigiti, kind of like tiny guy, like jumping up.
Yeah, it's all in the effects too.
Yeah, I'll say that I'm not going to be that guy that's like he's 2 inches too tall. I'm not going to be. If he's fucking awesome, I'm not going to care if he's 6 foot or if he's 5 foot. But they got to have somebody that's got charisma. That's the biggest thing. You got to have somebody that can be darkly comedic and intimidating. That's just the two things you really got to nail. And I feel like Jackie Earle Haley nailed it, but he kind of has.
What if Freddy was black?
That's fine. That's fine. Really.
I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, let's get Donald Glover.
I don't know, man.
Burnt is burnt.
This is hard to debate because people get.
What does that mean?
There's no skin color on burnt. I mean, what does it matter? We're all the same.
I thought you were like, we didn't have to do makeup. He already looks.
Oh no!
I was like, Jesus Christ, CeePee, holy shit!
Oh no! Thank you for letting me.
CeePee, how could you say something like that?
So then you're saying we need to have Tony Todd as the next.
Tony Todd is the next
Freddy Krueger.
I'll take that. Even at his current age, I'll take it.
I would too, honestly.
Yo, he's a fucked up candy man.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to debate because people get so out of control with the controversy of it. But I don't know. This is my stance. As long as it's a fucking phenomenal actor that he is the right one for the role, I could care less if he's white, black, green, polka dot. I don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. But if you're just going to say, like, you have a studio head that's like, okay, we need a black Freddy because times have changed. Don't look at anybody who's white. Just go out there and find a black Freddy. That's when I'll have an issue because you have this thing nowadays where it feels like we have to have a lot of change for change's sake. Like the whole thing about, the whole thing that we had not too long ago about the next James Bond should be a woman. No. It's as long as you're not fundamentally changing who the character is to make the change, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, so James Bond is a spinoff. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I mean,
whether or not he's
Bond 008
doesn't matter. But as long as that's not like I said, as long as they're not putting the fucking filters on who they're looking at, okay, go out and only talk to Idris Elba and Samuel L. Jackson and see which one's
CeePee, don't get that wrong. She'd be Agent 34, 24, 34.
I'm suddenly thinking of Tracy Morgan on SNL where he was like, Lamont Bond, but just don't let me near any water, man. I'll do no swimming.
So apparently the commenters are just as terrible as us. If Freddy is black, would he look the same after the fire? How dare you?
Oh my god.
That's just
terrible.
We're all pink on the inside, guys.
This is getting demonetized.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Thanks, music.
Yeah, hey, you opened this can of worms.
I think I did. No, yeah, right.
I don't know. Let's
was
just
Jesus.
blame
You just
Cecil and
took
move
the
on.
can of worms and threw it in a whole lake.
When all else fails, blame CeePee.
All right, guys. Well, I don't know. Are there any final things we should touch on in the horror verse right now? I mean, lots of cool stuff going on. We got a Nun trailer dropping on Wednesday, by the way.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I wish it was I honestly wish it was a Crooked Man trailer, because the Crooked Man was one of the fucking scariest things I've seen in recent. Oh, Cody, you're shaking your head. Not a Crooked Man fan?
It actually amazes me that they say that was not CGI, because when that happened in the movie,
Same.
both times that I watched it, it was such a brick in the face. I was like, where the fuck did that come from?
And it wasn't. It's so crazy. It wasn't.
Yeah,
The only
so
thing was the dog transforming. That was the only
Yeah.
CG.
So it's impressive, but I was not a fan of that at all.
Oh man, I thought he was so creepy, dude.
I still can't believe we're getting a third Annabelle before a third Conjuring. Like, what the fuck?
Ooh,
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Did you like the Nun, Cody, CP? Like the in the movie?
Yeah, and it was cool too that the story behind it, about that whole aspect of the Nun, was all like reshoots and post production.
Mhm.
He had an idea. It was like some kind of actual demonic figure, and he had an idea, and the studio actually trusted James Wan enough, which is the cool part, to say, okay, cool, sounds cool, go back and reshoot all that shit, and it worked. I mean, you
How
got a
fucking
spin-off.
that scene, that one scene where the
painting.
hands come out behind the painting, dude.
Yeah.
Like fucking A.
It's awesome.
Woo. So do you guys agree? Do you think James Wan is sort of like the new master of horror out there?
I mean,
I think that I will say that without reservation.
He's certainly in the conversation, because not only that, but he's kind of like he's taken all the new directors under his wing too. Like, you got David F. Sandberg, who did Lights Out, and now he's doing Shazam, and he did the Annabelle creation, I believe. You got the other guy, Lee Winnell, the guy, he did a couple of them, and he did Upgrade. That was kind of like his writing partner for a while. So there's a lot of really cool up and coming directors that's under this James Wan umbrella.
No, yeah, I agree. And Lee does his best. He did Insidious 4, as well as 3, right? 3.
Yeah.
Sorry. But he was still involved in 4, I think, because obviously he was in it as spec.
He was the creator of Insidious with Wan. So.
But yeah, he definitely went above and beyond for Upgrade. I loved Upgrade. CP, did you see Upgrade yet?
Nope.
I haven't seen it yet either, man. It looked hyper violent and awesome, but
it was hyper violent. It was cool. I enjoyed Hereditary better as an experience, but I thought I definitely thought Upgrade was. Here's the thing. Here's what I thought. I thought Upgrade could very easily be John Wick #1. You know what I mean? I think they could very easily develop it into a little trilogy, where the second movie is him fighting his Upgrade.
I could see it having a sequel, but I think it's one of those movies where it ends on such a cool enough note without spoiling it that I'm fine with it. It's just a one and done. Like, to me, it was the last act, again, without getting into spoilers, it felt like it was going in a very cliche, predictable direction. And then all of a sudden that ending and things start unraveling, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Because I started to sink in my chair like, oh, fuck, I know exactly where the next 15 minutes are going. And then it kind of gets there. And for me, it was like, damn, they actually pulled that off at the end there, and it was really cool.
Yeah, but the twist made too many plot holes for the movie. Again, this is a review. We're talking about Hereditary spoilers, so let's talk about Upgrade spoilers.
Hey,
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen
Take
it
it up for a
yet.
second.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, no, okay, then you're right. I won't do that. There was the reveal at the end. The reveal at the end did make things not make sense throughout the rest of the movie.
I haven't analyzed it enough. You might be correct, but for me, just for my first viewing experience, it worked.
I'll say this without spoiling. Cody, why would there have been limitations on him? Like, why would there have needed to be a shutdown if it was sort of controlling it from the start? Like, they have put a version of him in the guy instead of a version that didn't need that to happen.
The way that I viewed it was that the guy that created the chip or whatever put all that in there, but it started to get smarter and everything like that. So it was trying to make it seem like to the main character like we need to stop this guy because he's going to stop us. When in reality, he's trying to get him to do that. So
but that reveal said that it was kind of that way from the start. So if that was the case, why was there that version of the software implanted to begin with when it didn't need to be? If that was the case,
it might be a hole. I don't know.
It's a hole.
I saw that as something that the guy that created it slipped in the back door and left there that maybe the AI didn't know about.
Now it's a lot sexier.
Yeah, so it made the AI didn't know about it. So then whenever he was actually trying to do the right thing, it was twisted around for his perspective so that the main character would go and.
You might be right. You might be right on that.
Discuss this without.
No, I got it. No, you might be right. I hear what you're saying. You might be right. You might be right.
Yeah.
Everyone that's seen it in the comments knows what we're talking about, though. So it's cool. So all right. I don't know. I'm actually having fun just talking about horror now, rather than. So I mean, let's see. We have The Girl in the Spider's Web. What were some of the other trailers that just dropped?
Eddie Alvarez. You were talking about directors. I'm curious to see if he dips his toe back in.
Yeah, he just released a trailer for his new movie. What was that movie called?
The Spider's Web.
Yeah. The Girl in the Spider's Web. Yeah. We have that. We're going to be doing that reaction once we're done here as well.
Yeah, that was the fourth book in the series. It was the first one not to be written by the guy who did the original trilogy.
I thought he did half.
I actually never saw the Fincher film, so I'm curious where they're going to go with this.
Fuego, didn't the original author do half of the fourth book?
Maybe he had some notes and stuff, but I know he passed away in like the mid 2000s.
So this does tie in. So.
Well, it's got new casting. It's the girl from
the poster is like, oh, this is a girl with a dragon tattoo.
Well, it's the same characters, but it's a sequel.
It's kind of like think of it like James Bond. It's a sequel, but not.
There's no Rooney Mara.
So much less interested.
Yeah, I love Rooney Mara, but she's okay in that film.
I did not like that movie.
He was okay. As far as Fincher films,
what about the Swedish ones?
I have only seen the first one of the Swedish films. I haven't seen all three of those. Wasn't that Numi
Rapace?
Oh, sorry.
Numi Rape Face? Is that
Numi Rape?
Rapace. That's I always get those confused.
She was Seven Sisters, right? Numi Rapace?
Yes.
She was oh goodness, Prometheus.
I guess
right?
it's not called Seven Sisters, right? Yeah. It's called something else now.
Yeah, whatever happened to Sunday or some shit like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, after Netflix picked it up, they rebranded it.
I got halfway through that and I'm like, bored.
It was kind of cool. It didn't blow my socks off, but it was a good watch.
It just seemed like it was headed in a predictable direction. One of them probably betrayed the rest of them, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, all right. I didn't need to watch the rest. So, all right. Yeah. But I do. Now, here's the thing. What do you guys think? This is actually a good topic. And I'm go ahead and grading my topic before you guys even hear it.
Good.
I like, what do you guys think of all the Netflix releases, right? We've had a bunch. So the Open House was shit, but The Ritual was really cool. What do you guys think of Netflix being a new big player in the horror scene?
It's hard because like I didn't see The Ritual, but I did see the Open House, and
fucking watch The Ritual, bro. The Ritual is great.
I haven't watched it yet either, man. You're good.
Yeah, and you're dumb.
Cargo too.
A24 and Netflix are kind of in the same thing where it's like hit or miss. I like either love it like The Babysitter, or you get the Open House where I thought it was absolute garbage. So until they really tighten up the movies that they go out and buy and put out there, until they become a little bit more reliable for me, they're not going to be like the next, new big name in horror. Like a Netflix film is like an event, but they're on the track because it feels like those movies that big studios don't want to take the risk on, they'll pick up, but they just need to be a little bit more mindful of the risks that they take. Because when I see an Open House, I don't want to watch the next one.
Cargo was pretty good. We actually did a review. I haven't released it yet, but Marcia and I reviewed Cargo, the Martin Freeman zombie movie. It was pretty good. I'm actually a huge fan of the Netflix model. I'm a huge fan of the fact that they're trying these different things, and some are working, some aren't. Like the Marvel series, like I really enjoyed the first round of Marvel series, but fucking Jessica Jones season 2 was boring. Iron Fist sucked ass. Like, so I admit that Netflix is hit or miss, but
exactly
with their horror offerings, they've been generally pretty pretty good. And actually, believe it or not, I mean, this might get me made fun of, but the second season of Glow hits this month. I'm excited as fuck to watch that. That the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling show was really, really, really entertaining. Yeah. Like they just do. I've never watched Orange is the New Black. I hear that's amazing. Like
it's getting bad.
Hey,
okay,
yeah. Orange is the New Black was amazing for 2 seasons, and every single season now it's becoming less and less relevant because it's like it's one of those shows that is sticking around and finding reasons to stick around because of the ratings of the initial seasons. Like
Netflix is Dexter.
Oh, so just like The Walking Dead, right?
Well, but Netflix is also doing Slasher, right? Slasher is a Canadian horror series, which now they've done 2 seasons, which is a giant season-long slasher arc, a la the Scream series, except done horror, which is hard to fathom. But anyway, it's still nice that I just like the fact that Netflix is taking these risks. Like we have a couple trailer reactions for upcoming Netflix horror movies, and it's like that's cool because they, you know, Bright. Yes, Bright was an overall failure story wise, but it was successful enough that they're doing a sequel and they're trying to do stuff. You know, like, and so they're like Cody brought up, The Babysitter was a great one.
I love The Babysitter. Samara Weaving.
I enjoyed Bright, but I felt like the movie came about 6 years too late. I think if it came out like in the mid 2000s, people would fucking go nuts for that movie.
If it came out after the second Lord of the Rings movie came out, it would have fucking rocked the house. Because that would have been right after Training Day and right after Two Towers, so it would have blended 2 of the most popular fucking things in the zeitgeist.
Two Towers being the best of the Lord of the Rings films.
Agreed. The extended version, anyway. I like the extended
version. Correct. I haven't seen it.
All right, let's see. Let's go back to. Does everybody like the new Michael Myers mask? Of course. Let's bring it back to Halloween because what the fuck else do we do on Killer Flicks?
I love it.
Yeah, I actually am a big fan too.
I feel like it's got enough flavor of the original Shatner mask, which is my favorite, with it being a realistic amount of weathering and not like the exaggerated metal version of the Rob Zombie ones. So it's a happy medium for me. I think it looks cool.
CeePee?
I don't doesn't care.
Like,
well, let me say this. Let me say this. Am I wrong, or did that opening scene in the trailer, the checkerboard bullshit, did that make it seem like Michael is smaller than he should be? And granted, I might be comparing it to the Rob Zombie thing, but he was just a normal sized dude, and that is not intimidating to me. He was the same size as the reporter.
He was normal size in the original. So that's that thing, and that's where fans get split. See, as the series got more traditional slasher and kind of gory and got all the way up to Rob Zombie's exaggerated and everything like that, people have kind of come to know Michael Myers kind of like they know Jason, this big hulking, brutal, you know, killing machine. But if you go back to the original intent of the character back in 1978, he's just a regular dude that for whatever reason a fucking switch went off whenever he was 7 or 8 years old, and now he's just like this vessel for evil. It doesn't need to be, you know, he doesn't need to look like Tyler Mane, he doesn't need to be able to lift a truck, but he's just this force of evil that kills because he exists. So you're either on board for that or you're not, but that's what their intent with this movie is, to me, is to get back to all those original things that got muddied or lost altogether with the sequels.
Fair point.
Feel it.
We're actually going to have Tyler Mane at Mad Monster signing our celebrity version of the shirt you're wearing, Cody.
Sweet.
Yeah, so okay, well, fair enough. I think the mask looks great. I don't have much of an opinion beyond that. I think the trailer was exciting. I actually didn't care about the movie at all before the trailer. Now, after the trailer, I'm actually a little more interested. Although I hated the beginning. The checkerboard shit was like stupid to me.
This is my stance on the Halloween thing, and unfortunately, it's got to bring up Killer Flicks in a negative light again. But look, the concept of going back and erasing everything after the original excites the hell out of me, because I'm one of those weird Halloween casual fans that prefers the original vision and enjoys the sequels, but feels like they lost what the intent was. So now that they're going back to that, or at least say they are, that excites me. But at the same time, 50% of me is excited to see the movie. 50% of me is excited for the movie Gators. People shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Amen to that.
I can't believe the amount of people that are like, "Did you notice this?" And it's like, motherfuckers, you're posting spoilers. Like, post the comments or post the picture in your comments. Don't post the picture on your main fucking post of this or that. And it's like, guys, not all of us want to know what's going to happen, like a frame by frame fucking breakdown. And CP, I love the back and forth that we have sometimes when it's like, oh my God, 2 new images were released today. Let's do a whole fucking video on it. It's like, holy shit.
Break out the Jergens.
Yeah, it's like, okay, great. Two images. Holy shit. Guess what? Movies are made at like,
24 frames
a second. You're going to have a lot of those to go through. Like, holy shit, you're going to have a lot. Just wait and shut the fuck up until then, please. Like, oh my God. I don't begrudge them.
Maybe,
but I don't necessarily.
Partial jealousy from me.
Okay. Well, I don't appreciate
partial jealousy from me.
The funny part about it too is that we implemented this thing about master posts in Killer Flicks. Like, okay, the day before the trailer. Okay, this is the trailer master post. Post all your shit here, and everybody's like, yeah, fuck you. And they just post their own shit.
Like, did you guys see this trailer? It's like, yeah. Did you see the 40 posts ahead of yours?
Yeah.
It's like people are like, I don't need to scroll. I'm sure I'm the first one to have this thought. Like, yeah.
It's an active group, dude. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Look, straight up, we might be having fun, but it is still one of the best, Facebook groups out there. But still, it can get a little.
I kid the things I love, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It comes from the heart.
Sure.
Fair enough. All right, guys. I think that's as good a place to end it as any. We've gone on about horror. We've gone on about Hereditary. We've gone on about Halloween, of course. That's the 3 H's. In my opinion. Horror, Halloween, and Hereditary. We're all good for tonight. So thank you guys very much for joining us, all of you viewers that have kept us between 25 and 30-something viewers the entire time. We love you all very much. Thank you very much to Cody and to CP from joining from both Cody Leach and Will I Like It Reviews. Both of the links are in the description box down below, so you guys can go and subscribe to them. They're on their way up.
Do it now.
We're slowly crawling right now, but thankfully the last week's worth of content has done well by us. So we're back in the direction we want to go. We need to keep up with these whippersnappers that are going so big so fast.
We have very
the Codys and the Lees and
Cody
the
and Lees
of the world.
No, dude,
I
slow down.
think we have a fickle fan base sometimes.
Take it the fuck easy.
Yeah, let's all just calm down with the speedy growth of me here.
Oh, and by the way, CP, I haven't forgotten that we still need to do the one-on-one interview with you, like I did with Cody and Lee. I do still plan on doing that. We just had obviously a lot of shit to go through, so we will do that in the coming weeks. If you're still down, hopefully we'll be able to arrange that.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us, and thank all of you viewers for watching from the various channels. We appreciate you very much. Like I said, click the links in the description box down below to subscribe to both Cody and CP at their respective channels. I also threw down Jason from Sinister Cinema Reviews, and I even put Lee down because he almost came on, hopefully.
Let me. By marriage, I have to say this. Emily's Adventures in Horrorland. She needs to get to a K view, a K subscribers.
Okay.
Yes.
Overlooks perhaps all of us in the stuff she does. She's just really incredible. Only horror too. So
wait, so Emily's Adventures in Strangeland is
Horrorland.
Your wife? Horrorland is your wife?
I could spit and hit her. she's in the other room.
Shit. Okay. I didn't even know that.
Often.
All right. I guess I got to make sure I'm a part of that one.
There you go.
All right. Now I feel a little bad. All right.
It's fine.
Way to end the stream. All right. Thanks, thanks, CP. Appreciate that. All right.
Sorry.
No, I'll make sure. And I think whatever. Anyway, thank you guys very much for joining. Thank all of you commenters for taking part the entire time and having your own conversations, keeping yourself entertained while we went on and on about our horror loves and disloves.
And interacted very little with all of them. So.
Indeed. Oh, that's all right. They love us anyway. So thank you guys very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Benjamin Fuego.
Cody Leach. That's me. CP.
CP. I'm CP.
All right. That's everyone. Thank you guys very much for watching. And until next time, remember, stay scared.
Come on.
Oh, Cody.
Scared.
He fucking dropped the ball.
It's the lag.
It's the lag. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you guys weren't talking 30 seconds ahead of me this whole time? All right. Thank you guys very much. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast.
There you go.